Chapter 745. Seeing her sister die in battle, Shampoo, who came over, was so angry that her eyes were about to burst, and she felt the anger boiling in her chest. Without saying a word, she dissociated the artifact, and her momentum suddenly soared. The broken artifact turned into a fierce bull phantom, roaring forward. I like to see the angry expressions of the noble's lackeys the most. The tailor stepped on the ground excitedly, and the white toes seemed to be harmless. The moment he landed, a huge rock cone 7 or 8 meters long pierced out from the ground diagonally. Boom! The moment the bull phantom hit the boulder, there was a violent explosion, and countless stones flew. The figure flew through the dust at high speed, and the tailor decisively drew his gun and crushed the shadow of the wild bull. Jian, who was beside him, cooperated perfectly, seized the opportunity, and threw out a white light wheel, cutting off a row of Shampoo's ribs, blood splattered, extremely tragic. This is the 4th level. Shampoo was blasted back and vomited a large mouthful of blood. The difference in combat power between the two sides was not ordinary. Everyone, come to support. The soldiers around him were still rational, knowing that without the Chosen One, they would only die faster. They immediately formed a crooked circle, raised their spears, and tried to protect their Chosen Ones. Kill all the noble's lackeys. The 2 Chosen Ones didn't take it seriously, and rushed into the crowd, rushing left and right. No matter who rushed up, they couldn't withstand a blow. In just 2 minutes, the mercenaries were killed and scattered, leaving a thick pile of corpses. The sacrifice of the mercenaries was not in vain. The crossbows and spears consumed a lot of the enemy's divine power. Damn it, there is no way to win. Shampoo still wanted to raise his hands to fight, but every piece of flesh and blood in his body was numb. She was completely desperate. There were 2 4th-level God Chosen, and the pressure was suffocating. It's time to attack. Seeing the mercenaries disintegrate, and the enemy God Chosen also consumed a wave, Field decisively ordered an attack. Ashina summoned a giant wolf, and swung her spear. Filyuamani bloomed a magic ring and floated out. It's you again, damn nobles. The tailor saw everyone, his eyes immediately turned red, and he screamed, this time, I will return yesterday's humiliation 1,000 times and kill you all. Field raised his eyebrows, immediately displeased, and immediately scolded. Don't keep complaining, you provoked us first. When I catch you, I will beat you 9 times in 3 days, and make you kneel down and call me daddy. These people killed indiscriminately and provoke me. They are no longer ordinary assassins. I must strike hard. Fuck, this tone is too awesome. Everyone in the red hair mercenary group was shocked. Even the Silk Baron himself on the roof was shocked by Field's tone. It's rare to see such a domineering person. Isn't he afraid of being retaliated? Looking for death. The tailor was furious. The needle gun in his hand gathered blood and energy, and stabbed it fiercely. The sound of breaking through the air made people's eardrums hurt. I deal with her. 4th-level magic skill, Annihilation Aurora. Philomenai raised her hand, and blasted out a beam of light as thick as a pillar. The moment it touched the spear, the ground collapsed. The tailor only felt an irresistible force, and was pushed back violently. The tailor only valued Ashina, and was full of ways to crack the spear technique. He didn't expect Philomenai to be so unreasonable. The terrifying energy torrent poured out wantonly. How could it be such power? It's simply a monster. The moment the tailor came into contact with the divine skill of Philomena, he vomited blood directly, and it was difficult for him to even break free from the bombardment of the beam. I thought that the wolf subman was cruel enough, but I didn't expect to encounter an even more unreasonable guy. Damn, how could there be 2 4th-level ones? The organization's intelligence was wrong. It also needs to be arranged in advance. It was too late to regret it this time. The tailor's arms felt as if they were burning. He endured the pain and hooked his fingers, grabbing a silk thread that had been arranged in advance. Boom! A huge stone was pulled out of the soil and smashed towards Filyuamani, with black runes on it. This is a curse engraved by Jian. Once it is exposed to the runes, it will be weakened by negative status. Dragon Wolf melted. Ashina pressed Jian to attack fiercely the moment she met the enemy. Seeing the huge stone coming, she decisively helped. The sky was full of ice flames, dyeing it blue. The huge stone was frozen by the extremely cold ice air and was fragile. The cold wind blew, and the huge stone engraved with the spell runes turned into dust and dissipated like weathering. Good opportunity. Level 4 divine skill, Bass Slash. Jian rushed over immediately, the scimitar in her hand glowing with golden light. We've been fooled, Ice Spear Guard. The temperature around them plummeted wildly, the flying snowflakes and icicles quickly merged, turning into 6 prismatic ice spears, each of which had a white icy air current flowing through it, and under the infusion of divine power, it instantly grew to more than 10 meters long. The ice spears that appeared out of thin air blocked Jane's path. Boom! Taken off guard, she had no choice but to blast the ice spears, and everyone felt a white flash before their eyes, and the sky exploded violently, with a continuous storm of ice blades flying out densely. After vomiting a large mouthful of dirty blood, most of Jane's divine coat was destroyed, revealing a large area of whiteness. With the help of the explosion, the tailor escaped from the attack of Philomena, but the divine shield was almost melted. I hate assassins the most. Asina landed gracefully, and while her left hand condensed the gun of killing, she rushed forward and attacked frantically. The two sides fought back and forth, and Asina suppressed the two people alone without any pressure. This scene made everyone dumbfounded. Too strong. I heard that the nobles are favored by the goddess. It's true. No one can hurt the Silt Baron. Let's do something. Use your hunting bows to shoot the enemy. The morale of the militia was boosted. They didn't have to die, and they could even get rewards. How could they not be excited? Why does a baron have 2 powerful 4th-level gods chosen? Shampoo's mind was full of question marks. What was terrifying was that the enemy, who couldn't even withstand a single blow from him, was actually beaten by them. A series of energy ripples exploded, and the 2 assassins were crushed and fled everywhere, but this was not a noisy city, and there was no place to hide. At this time, a young figure quietly came to the back of field. How could it be? The enemy turned out to be them. Taz's hands were shaking, not only because of fear, but more because of inner struggle. It was Agamemnon who was to be killed. How did he run into barren field? Damn it. But if I don't give the Lord a fatal blow, Miss Jane and the others will be in danger. Hurry up, Taz, I am from the Watch Brotherhood, an assassin, I shouldn't be so weak. Partners are more important. Taz frantically urged himself to take action, and his stiff hand slowly drew out the long sword, but his moral bottom line prevented him from taking action. Heiyu, who was standing aside, had a blank expression on his face, but his attention was already on Taz, and he was about to capture this suspicious mercenary. The fighting knight's keen intuition made Field feel a chill on the back of his neck. Chapter 746. Opening the small map, there are green friendly marks all around, no abnormality. Turns around quickly, Field draws the long sword from his waist and points it directly at the mercenary behind him. Hey, isn't this Taz? Have you joined the red hair mercenary group? Field was stunned, then suddenly realized, no wonder you said you were going to be late for a companion. It turns out you were acting with your mercenary partners. Being discovered by Field, Taz was relieved, letting the cold sweat on his forehead soak his eyes, and answered in a wooden and trembling voice. Yes, Mr. Baron. Field didn't take it seriously. After all, the red hair mercenary group had suffered heavy casualties before, and it would be strange if the mercenaries were not nervous and afraid. The reason why he didn't go there immediately was to guard against potential enemies. Besides, he was not a mercenary's subordinate. They attacked without notifying him, so why should he rush to help the mercenaries? Boom boom! The battle between Ashina and the 2 assassins escalated to a white-hot stage. The 2 sides fought back and forth, and the aftermath of the magic skills destroyed the originally gorgeous manor. Wherever the ice spear passed, the air condensed and everything collapsed. The 2 assassins became more and more frustrated as they fought. They were horrified to find that even if they joined forces, they were no match for the man in front of them. Fortunately, the power of the 4th-level gods chosen was strong, and they would not be defeated in a short time. These 2 are talented people. They have been able to hold on for so long under Ashina. Field couldn't help but cherish their talents and decided to give them a chance and persuade them to join the Knight territory. Listen to me, don't let others use you. Regardless of the potential trouble, Field used his fighting spirit to persuade them to surrender. Surrender, I won't kill you, there's no need to. Before he finished speaking, the tailor seemed to have grabbed a life-saving straw, and the ferocious look in his eyes was not concealed. Good opportunity, as long as we kill the enemy's lord, at least one of the chosen ones can be disabled in a short time. Following the sound, the tailor locked onto Field. Die! Risking being killed by Ashina, he threw out his spear fiercely, pulling out a long wave of air in the air, so fast that only the afterimage could be seen. Don't even think about it, Dragon Wolf, cooperate with me. Fortunately, Ashina was prepared. The Dragon Wolf rushed out from behind the 2 of them, and bit Jane's body frantically, while Ashina pierced the tailor's heart with a shot. He threw out the killing gun with his left hand, knocking the needle gun away, and the whole set of movements was smooth and flowing. Well, I must complete the task. The tailor was bleeding, and he gritted his teeth and kicked Ashina away, flying backwards. Fuck, so cruel? Field took a half step back. As expected, the Lord could not be easily exposed on the battlefield, otherwise he would be instantly focused. Since you insist on seeking death, don't blame me, kill them. You should have died long ago, you shameless ants. Philomena was furious. She raised her hand and threw out a cross of star rays. The flying star rays exploded everywhere, turning the assassin's retreat route into a bombing zone. At the same time, the magic ring behind her burst into brilliant light, dyeing the whole city into a sacred golden color. Directly drawing out 1/3 of her divine power, Philomena outlined a black and gold energy dragon. The majestic divine power scared the surrounding monsters and scattered them, and the livestock were so scared that they dared not move at all. Not good. Quickly dissociate the artifact. The tailor's face changed drastically, and he regretted it. They would never have thought that their opponent had such a terrifying explosive power. If they had known earlier, they should have dissociated the artifact and left or fought at the beginning. It's too late. Seeing this, Asina drove the dragon wolf to knock the two of them into the forest garden of the manor. 4th level divine skill, Burning Sky Dragon Meteorite. The dragon-shaped divine skill composed of pure mixed annihilation divine power, like a living giant dragon, roared and fell, and the entire forest area where the assassin was located was directly evaporated. The silk collar seemed to be bombed by a missile, and the ground shook. Countless houses of the people were covered with dust like snow, as if there was an earthquake. After the explosion, the Silk Territory forest garden was blown into a basin, with only the ruins burning in the golden holy flame. In the thick smoke and flames, 2 artifacts were gathering and forming. The 2 poor assassins, who could have shined on the battlefield, came to be assassins and died meaninglessly in the Silk Territory forest garden. No one even knew their names. What's the matter? Ashina landed nimbly, raised her hand to take back the artifact, and complained, in fact, I am sure that I can kill them elegantly. Philomena staggered, holding her head, enduring the violent backlash, and snorted coldly, I am happy, I just want to see the explosion. Are you alright? Field hurried over. I am fine, Black Wolf, go and bring back the artifact. Ashina was sweating a lot, her body was shiny and her figure was very prominent, and she was not injured. Philomena was in a bad state, and her eyes looked like she could hardly open, and her face was pale. Take a rest. Field was distressed, and quickly took Philomena to a safe place to rest. The explosion just now not only caused a physical critical hit, but also a mental one. Shampoo of the Red Hair Mercenary Group was so shocked that she couldn't speak. Seeing the 2 assassins buried in the sea of fire, she just felt ridiculous. You obviously have the ability to deal with the enemy, but you didn't take action earlier, causing my sister to be killed. Thinking of her dead sister, she was extremely angry and couldn't help but clench her fists, full of resentment. The dead assassin couldn't be hated, and this anger was naturally transferred to Field. Even though Field actually helped her. I will remember you, despicable nobles. Without even the thought of asking Agamemnon for money, Shampoo gritted his teeth and left with the mercenary group. Tez knelt on the ground, his eyes wide open. He didn't expect that his new partner would die because of his cowardice and hesitation. Why? He felt dizzy, and Taz fainted with his eyes open. Because he was wearing mercenary clothes, he was taken away by mercenaries without knowing it. The happiest person was Agamemnon, who thought he was dead. Unexpectedly, Field was so powerful that he actually killed the 2 assassins. This saved the family business, and also frightened the villains who were eyeing him. Oh goddess, if I have a daughter, I will definitely send her to Field's bedroom. Agamemnon gestured excitedly twice, and hurriedly called the maid. Quick, invite Baron Field and give him the highest standard of reception. I want to sign the aid bill. The chaos did not subside until the next day. Field spent half a day signing the Silk to Night aid agreement with Agamemnon. The agreement stipulates that the Silk Territory will give 500 gold coins worth of cloth every month, 5 silk carriages, and 1 cart of magic cloth every year for 10 years. And allow Field to recruit craftsmen and tailors in the Silk Territory. After resting, Philomena recovered from the backlash. Field was in the mood to count the harvest. Chapter 747. It's just 1 step away from the 5th level. Philomena lazily propped up her head, holy and lazy, this progress is too slow. Field was very satisfied and said happily, as expected, we have to face more challenges. If we ignore this trivial matter, we will not gain anything. After conquering the 2 4th level artifacts, Field confirmed their effects. The scimitar was useless, and was decomposed into a divine seal by Field to strengthen his skills in the future, while the tailor's needle gun was very good and could be kept for use. Artifact, Bone-Piercing Needle Gun, Level 4, Source, Beauty Branch, Goddess of Tailoring and Weaving. Effect, a sharp needle gun with armor-breaking and cutting effects, which has excellent effects on both light and heavy armor units. Special effect, only for use by the Beauty Goddess system. I just need a spear, and it's a level 4 artifact. Perfect. This artifact, except for its odd shape, is in the shape of a thin needle used by a tailor, and has no other shortcomings. Field picked up the needle gun curiously, swung it twice in his hand, and the sharp edge shone in the air. Wherever the silver light passed, the surrounding tables and chairs were directly cut off, and the cut surface was as bright as a mirror. So sharp, you will be invincible in cavalry battles from now on. Field couldn't wait to use the needle gun to cut the enemy into pieces. Take it easy. Philomena hugged her chest with both hands and looked at Field coquettishly. Don't shout and scream on the battlefield like you did last night. It's easy to be assassinated. Field apologized and scratched his head. Okay, this time thanks to Ashina. Pack up your things. We will return to the family immediately. At this time, in the capital of the Griffin Empire, the office of the Queen's Guard, Lance sorted out a long scroll of parchment, which recorded the investigation of the Ross family and Field. After displaying the evidence one by one, Lance wrote down his own suggestions, reward Field heavily, and asked the Queen to summon Field to personally reward and encourage him. Done? It's not easy. I hope I can catch up with the battle against the Grand Duke of Jim. Knock, knock, knock. The door was knocked. Come in. Lance picked up the sour apple cider beside him, and took a sip. I just heard that you came back from the Night Territory, so I came to visit you immediately, hoping to hear some stories about corpses eating people. The person who came was Vok, who was also a member of the Imperial Guard and his superior, a veteran guard in his 50s. He had an unfathomable smile, and was muttering something. Vok glanced at Lance from bottom to top and said, Thank Goddess, I am so happy to see you come back unscathed, young man. Ha, thank Goddess. Lance stood up and quickly asked Vok to sit down. Thank you also to Mr. Field, his Night Territory is extremely safe. What do you mean? Vok's face suddenly changed. That stupid rumor can't be true. It's true. There are not only living people in Night Territory, but also a big city. It's not as good as the provincial capital, but it has already taken shape. TSK, no wonder the Lord gave me such a strange task. I didn't expect that someone could really snatch the city back from the disaster. Vok's face changed again, and he asked strangely, Then how do you report it? Of course, I report it truthfully. This is a good thing. The Queen will be very excited when she knows that Night Territory has been conquered. Lance couldn't help laughing. The Empire needs good news. Not necessarily. Vok snorted. What if I say that he is suspected of murdering nobles and Imperial guards? But there is no evidence. Lance shrugged. He may have colluded with the devil. There is no evidence either. Lance began to speak slowly, with a lot of questions in his mind. No one can build a city so quickly. It's too suspicious, and we have to investigate. Vok's face was gloomy. Ah? Seeing Vok's repeated questioning, Lance keenly sensed that something was wrong. Sir Vok, my superior, what do you mean? Vok sighed. I be frank, your report is inappropriate and untrue, change it to mine. After that, he took out a roll of magic paper and handed it to Lance. Lance glanced at it subconsciously. Article 1. There is no city in the Night Territory. The vain and arrogant Baron deceived the Great Queen. He occupied the border fortress to threaten the security of the Empire and satisfy his rebellious ambitions. Article 2. Baron Field deliberately dragged his feet in many battles of the Empire, was passive and lazy, and had close contact with the enemy. Article 3. Greedily squeezed the money of the people of the Empire to satisfy his own selfish desires. And so on. 7 deadly sins. Goddess. Lance was already unable to bear it, and jumped up in anger. His strong sense of responsibility made him extremely angry. He wanted to poke his finger into the other person's face, and Lance said angrily, You have never been to the Night Territory. Please don't talk nonsense. This is against the spirit of chivalry. Calm down, calm down. Vok spread his hands and couldn't help sneering. I have no grudge against Field, use your brain. Hearing this, Lance also came to his senses. How many people can let their boss do such a thing at the risk of slandering the Empire's heroes? But why? It is much better to have a powerful noble supporting the Queen than to be hostile. Haha, he is just a baron, just a bug that can be crushed to death. His biggest problem is that he has displeased Her Majesty the Queen. This alone is enough for him to die 10,000 times. As for contribution, we say yes or no. If Field is not convinced, then just keep it to himself. What can he do? What can he dare to do? Know your position. We are the sharp blade of the Queen, not running out to play the investigation game. If you really announce that the Night territory has been conquered, you will die with him. Vok knocked the table loudly. Sweating coldly, Lance understood everything. The so-called investigation was just for him to make up some crimes, and he was really stupid to investigate. It's like the boss wants to fire a worker and asks the secretary to find out the problems with his work, but the secretary foolishly says there are none and announces to everyone that the employee is a contributory model worker. Isn't this just courting death? Many times, it's not that you don't do well enough, but that someone doesn't allow you to do well. As for why you have to conduct a hypocritical investigation, it is of course legal and reasonable. Hee hee. Lance fell into a chair dejectedly, but the Grand Duke of Jim is still at war. Do you still want to force Field? Can you be as smart as the ministers? Just report it. Vok stood up and shattered the results of Lance's previous investigation. He walked up and patted Lance on the shoulder. You are still young and will know soon. The truth and facts are the most pale and powerless. What the hell are you doing? Chapter 748. Lance could not disobey his superior's orders, so he had to hand in Field's guilt. He also wrote a letter, hinting to the Queen that Night had cities and many living people, and that Field was a capable and good noble. After the news and investigation report were submitted, there was no response, and it fell into oblivion. The Queen only sent his team and the Imperial Legion south to deal with the Grand Duke of Jim. Field, who was unaware of the situation, returned to Rose Castle in Ross. This legendary building, which is both a manor and a fortress, stands in the center of the entire Rick province. Originally, Ross territory was a fertile plain, but for defense reasons, the ancestors of the Ross family hired wizards and gods chosen, and the population created steep cliffs. Rose Castle grew on the mountain like a vine. Surrounded by an endless sea of roses, all kinds of roses compete for beauty, and because they are magical plants, they will still bloom in winter. From a distance, it seems like you are in a fairy tale. In the future, it will definitely be a popular check-in spot. But don't think that Rose Castle is just a flower stand. It is the second highest fortress in Rick Province, with amazing defense and self-sufficiency. Under each magic rose, there are layers of corpses buried. No wonder the Earl can live so freely without a city. Field was amazed. Most of the family's property is in the hands of the eldest sister, especially Golden Eagle City, which is the capital of Rick Province and is very rich. This is Lord Field's home, so beautiful. Heiyu's eyes were full of stars. No woman could resist such a spectacular sea of flowers. This is the Earl's home, not mine. Also, don't wander around. Patting Heiyu's head, Field was thinking about collecting the seeds of the magic rose. Cal on the side nodded with deep understanding, because he accidentally ran into the scandal and was driven to the Night territory. Luckily, his own Baron was powerful, otherwise he would not even have the chance to come back. As soon as we arrived near the castle, a whole team of knights came. Master Field, welcome home. May the wind of your hometown wash away your vanity. Well, good day. Field nodded in return. After passing through the city wall, everyone entered the Rose Castle. The castle is surrounded by a manor, and even a town, where the families of the garrison stay. Huh? There are guests today. What a coincidence. Sir, they are guests from the Morning Wind province. They want to borrow our territory for trade, and have been here for several days. The knight leading the way explained. That's fine. Hi, second brother. Field had just dismounted when the girl wearing a wizard hat and a magic staff rushed over and stopped 3 meters in front of Field. Look, dear sister, your magic has improved by leaps and bounds. Field joked in a standard aristocratic voice. This energy fluctuation is at least a 4th level magician. How can it be that fast? I'm not the princess in the stupid night novel. Jianan jumped down from the staff. It's just the power of the artifact. I'm only a 2nd level magician. I don't know any magic. Jianan was able to teleport on a large scale, but it was only because of the power of the artifact. Field was jealous and rubbed his hands expectantly. Where did you get so many artifacts? You have to ask your mother for it. The little girl shook her finger. Let's not talk about this. Congratulations on becoming the Lord of Chaoxia territory. It's incredible. If I didn't have to go to the academy, I would definitely go to your place to be the chief magician. Haha, no problem, what my territory lacks is a mage. Sergei, who was standing on the castle tower, saw the scene. He sneered and leaned against the window in a handsome posture. My brother used to be as timid as a pork quail, but I didn't expect that he could occupy the Chaoxia territory. Now he is more courageous and dares to return to Rose Castle. Field's sister Liz sat at the round table and sipped her tea boredly. Haha, he now has status and strength. When he returned to the family, my father even called us back. It's ridiculous. Why are there 3 chosen ones beside him? They could be maids. Sergei frowned. Don't worry, they are chosen ones. I know more than you. Liz stood up. He controls several chosen ones. Of course, he could be the one being controlled. She was more inclined to believe that her brother was someone else's puppet. After all, they grew up together. She knew what kind of person her brother was. He could be bullied by slaves, but he only dared to drop the trash of Little Pearl. Liz, on the other hand, was the opposite of Field. She had been called the female general, and the daughter of the goddess of war since she was a child. Her temper was no different from that of a man, so she hated the cowardly Field the most. Lindsay, the merchant lady who was negotiating trade with them, looked at the two of them in confusion. Who are you looking at? Such a bad evaluation. Lindsay stood up gracefully. Unlike the affectation of a noble lady, Lindsay's upbringing was just right. She was also very fashionable in her clothes. The white skirt was matched with a white bow on her ankle for shopping. Her figure was well proportioned, and she looked pure and charming. My brother, Miss Lincia, I introduce you to him. Oh, okay. The 3 of them came downstairs, but they didn't rush to greet Field, but found an inconspicuous corner. I bet 1 gold coin that Field is still the coward. Sage took out the shiny gold coin from his pocket. He is just controlled by the chosen one and has become a puppet. How can you prove it? Liz asked with interest. Looking around, Sage saw the Warcraft dog in the patrol soldier's hand, and then saw Green teasing the maid, and the corners of his mouth immediately raised a smile. 2 monsters are enough to prove it. Oh, and there is also my aunt's youngest son Green. Green was only 14 or 15 years old, and was temporarily living in Rose Castle. He said to the outside world that he was learning aristocratic etiquette and swordsmanship. But in fact, Green tortured a baron's wife and daughter to death in the Morning Wind province, and also filled their heads with mosaic liquid and sent them to the baron. The scene was disgusting. The vile behavior caused the governor of Morning Wind to swear to investigate and judge Green. Fortunately, the Ross family hid him in Rose Castle for the sake of blood. Green, go give your brother Field a surprise. Use your best means. Sergei snatched the dog chain from the guard, stuffed it to Green, and raised his eyebrows. You must be kidding, brother Sergei. Although Green is bad, he is not stupid. He spat. He is now the lord of Chaoxia territory. I dared to bully him before because he was a waste. Now he has changed his personality. That's just a rumor. He is still a coward. Liz and I will protect you. Be energetic and don't lose points. The brother and sister both gave a thumbs up. Lynthia on the side was stunned and thought to herself, no wonder the Ross family is said to be cruel and ruthless. What kind of family is this? Brothers are friendly and respectful. Chapter 749. Seeing Green still hesitating, Sergei provoked him. You are not afraid, are you? It seems that you have become a waste like Field, a coward, honest and weak, and you deserve to be bullied. Who is afraid? I am not afraid of Field. Green looked down on Field from the bottom of his heart and immediately became excited. I could bully him before, let alone now. This kind of waste, if I bully him for a day, he will only be worthy of licking the mud on my boots in this life. Green took the iron chain that tied the magic dog and looked at Field from a distance. Goddess, it's a beautiful sister. When Green saw Philomena and the others, his eyes widened. He was greedy and jealous, and his whole body was hot with anxiety. A weak waste like Field is also worthy of being chosen by God. He must have used some despicable means. I will bite him to death with my dog. Such a beauty should be mine. Sergei and Liz looked at each other and laughed playfully. This is not good. As a guest, Lindsay couldn't bear it anymore and gently persuaded, if the Earl or other elders knew, they would be blamed. Haha, they love me the most. After hearing Lindsay's advice, Green was no longer afraid. It's okay to kill someone, so what's the big deal if I let the dog bite someone? The elders dote on the naughty children and think they are lively and cute. On the contrary, sensible children can endure hardships, so they should eat more. Wait here for a while. I get you snacks from the Magic Academy. Sister Jinan slapped her head, suddenly had an idea, and ran to the room to get snacks. Field was bored waiting, humming a little song, and ready to go back to the room to take a look. Hey, Field. A young man's slightly ruffian voice came from behind. Turning around, a plain-looking boy with gorgeous clothes was holding a first-level magical beast windhound in each hand. As a low-level magical beast dog, the windhound is a common patrolling magical beast. Field crossed his arms in front of his chest and asked curiously, "Who are you, and what do you want to see me for?" "You don't even remember me, hee." Green grinned and laughed maliciously. "You are as stupid as the black-bird pig in the animal pen. It seems that you have not made any progress. I am worried about you. Damn, this kid is so filthy." When Field heard this, his face immediately fell, and he said unhappily, "Who is this little ding barking like a dog? How dare he say that I have not made any progress, and have no respect for my elders?" "Sir, that is Master Green." The guard on the side was nervous, lowered his head, and explained in a low voice, fearing that Green would remember his appearance. When he heard the name, Field barely recalled from the original owner's memory. Green was the little bully of the family, who was spoiled since childhood. The original owner was often teased by him when he was a child, either being kicked or playing all kinds of pranks. What's even more abominable is that Green's elders love him unconditionally. Every time they see the original owner being teased by Green, they will praise him and think that this is a lively family atmosphere. This child is so lively and clever, he will definitely be a brave knight when he grows up. Look, Green has found Field again, ha ha. Hearing the noise here, relatives from 5 or 6 families gathered around to watch the joke. Green is Green, and he is still a young master. Who is he? He doesn't even have a title. Commoners are more human than him. Field was not going to tolerate this bad habit, so he turned around and said to Green with contempt, "You let 2 dog dads tie you up for a walk. You ran in front of me and barked. What did you say?" Green was furious and jumped up and down. "It was obviously me who tied up the dogs. How come the dogs tied me up?" The relatives around him all exclaimed. They didn't expect the kind Field to say something shocking. He even cursed so badly. If Green was a dog, then what would they be? "How dare you curse me? Go bite him to death." Green yelled, and immediately let go of the chain in his hand, staring at Field with a smirk. Woof woof woof. 2 windhounds came flying close to the ground, with the blessing of wind element, making their speed so fast that it was blurry. The ferocious dog mouths were still hanging with bloody saliva, and a bite would probably give you rabies. "Fuck? No, you really dare to mess with me." Field was shocked. Who gave him the courage? He quickly glanced around and saw Sergei and the others sneering, and immediately realized that this was probably a test from Sergei. Looking for death. Philomena couldn't stand it anymore, and raised her hand to blow him into ashes with her divine skill, but was stopped by Field. "No need to go to great lengths, I just feel like doing it, let me do it." After snapping her fingers, Ashina understood instantly, revealing a ray of divine pressure. The 2 windhounds suddenly stopped, and stood still as if time had stopped, with fear in their eyes. Field drew the long sword from his waist, and walked forward leisurely. Without using his fighting spirit, he swung his sword domineeringly, and with his powerful force, he cut off the dog's head cleanly and neatly. The whole process was calm, as if he was enjoying eating and drinking. The relatives around him were all wide-eyed. This was a Warcraft dog, but it was controlled by the Chosen One with just a look and allowed to be slaughtered. Looking at Field's calm appearance, is he still the coward in my memory? Waste, the dog that Brother Serge gave me is so rubbish. Green almost fainted with anger. Field strode forward and raised his hand to hit him. "You dog, you dare to provoke me, you deserve love. You dare to hit me, Mom." Green yelled. "Ah!" Field, "God, why are you bullying your brother?" Aunt ran over screaming and protected Green behind her. "What you did is too shameful, he is still a boy." Field was shocked. Aunt's special cat must have been refreshed, and he was immediately furious. He was the first to find fault. "Are you blind? No wonder your son is a beast. It turns out he inherited it from you. How do you talk to your aunt?" The aunt put her hands on her hips in anger. The relatives around came forward one by one to persuade Field to be magnanimous. Seeing that someone was backing him up, Green seemed to have suffered a great injustice. He pouted and quietly moved away, suddenly rushed towards Heyu shouting, "I want revenge." In his opinion, Field's Chosen One would not dare to attack the Lord's brother, so he could take advantage of the opportunity. Field was prepared, and slapped the aunt in the face, causing her to spin around, and then dodge to stop Green. "You want?" Without giving Green a chance to yell, Field kicked little Green with a standard soccer kick. This strike even caused his fighting spirit to bloom. The aftermath of his fighting spirit bloomed, and Field's kick even left an afterimage. Bang! Green only felt an unprecedented pain, and the sudden pain almost tore his brain apart. Wow, wow, wow. Covering the blood under his body, Green rolled wildly on the ground. Seeing this, Field almost laughed to death. He had perfectly controlled the strength of this strike. He would never kick him to death, but it was enough to kick little Green to pieces. Chapter 750. Field's behavior was unexpected. Is he still the weak boy he was before? Now he doesn't show any weakness at all, but is very violent. What a pervert. Linnea blushed, covering her red cheeks with both hands, not daring to watch the scene of chickens and eggs flying and breaking. No, my child. Aunt's eyes were red, and she rushed towards Field like a ghost. Haha, your brother Faye's fists are specially used to hit the old and weak. Field didn't hesitate at all, and went up. Bang bang. With 2 punches, he beat his aunt's eyes, and then he swung his fist and slapped her to the side. He clearly remembered the gloating look on his aunt's face on the day he was driven away. Who else wants to make trouble? Come quickly. I will solve it together today. Field took out a handkerchief to wipe his hands, and calmly glanced at everyone around him. The relatives retreated one after another. So domineering. Lindsay was already shocked by the violence of the Ross family, sweating profusely. She thought to herself, no way, Liz clearly said that Field was the most cowardly brother. You, the most cowardly person in your family, killed the monster without blinking an eye, kicked his brother to the ground, and knocked out his aunt. It is hard to imagine how extreme the people in the Ross family, who are not cowardly, would be. Humph, I knew he was replaced by the devil a long time ago. Liz said to Sergei in a low voice without any surprise, his personality has completely changed, incredible. Then why don't you catch him? Your chosen one is here too. Sergei said to Angelica, Liz's chosen one, and said, go stop Field and catch him. You are a 5th level God's chosen. How can you condone the devil's evil deeds? Ah, excuse me, this is an overstep. I serve the family, how can I harm the direct bloodline? Angelica was embarrassed, thinking, goddamn devil, don't think I don't know that the Ross family has many weird ways. You, Sergei, raised a doll monster yourself, and you don't allow others to play with it. Field wanted to punch his aunt twice. Enough, the farce ends here. Count Kurt, wearing a red velvet cloak, appeared at the door of the castle hall, and said calmly, the guards take Green to the hospital for treatment. Field, you come with me. The Earl lost most of his territory and military power, but his majesty cannot be ignored, especially after he stood up again. Field was not at all weak, straightened his back, and followed Earl Kurt to the study on the 2nd floor. You have changed a lot, completely different from what I remembered. Kurt turned around and was different from the cheap dad he had just met before going to the Night Territory. Today's Earl Kurt has short and capable hair, sharp eyes like an eagle, and a fine gray stubble, looking like an uncle-type warlord. He has recovered from a dying man to a brave general, one of the most outstanding warriors in Rick Province. How dare you say that to me? It's obvious that you have changed the most, Field complained. People always change. Field's eyes were burning. Weakness can't survive in a pile of corpses. Tell me why I changed. If I didn't change, I would have died long ago. I'm sorry. Kurt seemed to accept this excuse, without any apology on his face, but your current state is what the descendants of the Ross family should be in. Decisive, cruel, mean and lucky. If you can't do it, you will die. Kurt sat on the chair behind him, crossed his legs and poured himself a glass of red wine. How is it? What do you mean? Field was also happy, and saw the jeweled chair next to him, and sat down unceremoniously. Mastering power, the taste of revenge is addictive. Kurt drank a sip of wine. Weak people can't survive in the family, and they can't survive in the empire. Do you know why our family can prosper? It's just cruel. It doesn't matter if the lowly people are stupid, at most they will kill themselves. The Lord is stupid to death, and will take everyone to hell with him. Even if my son is a waste, let him die. I will not allow a waste like the pig count to appear in the family. My father, that is, your grandfather, asked me to strangle my sister when I was 8 years old. You tortured Green today, which changed my mind about you. Very good. Kurt became more and more excited, and directly crushed the crystal cup in his hand. You should thank me. At least I gave you the opportunity to become a lord, and going to the Night Territory is my test for you. If you can't get over this, that's your own business. Field took a breath. How cruel. The family actually played the law of the jungle. No wonder the relatives are so aggressive, and no wonder the god of killing regards the Ross family as a holy place. Kurt openly confessed his ideas and was proud of them. It sounded a bit crooked. Hee, but you're not cruel enough. Kurt waved his hand. Although you have become the lord of Chashia territory, I still look down on you. You are too weak. I heard that you treated the people of the territory well, allowed the people of Chaoxia to leave, and even accepted foreigners? Oh my god, it's ridiculous. Those who disobey your will be thrown into the furnace as firewood, or thrown into the bloodthirsty rose bushes to squeeze every drop of blood. Kurt was full of murderous aura, cruel and ruthless. He was not bragging, but Kurt would really do it. He was loyal to the queen before him, when the North was not corrupted. Kurt and his families. Bloody Rose won hundreds of wars, big and small. The elves were such a beautiful and rare race, but he slaughtered them in large numbers. Whether they were civilians or surrendered soldiers, Kurt never showed mercy. This caused the elves to hate the Ross family to the core. I have my own ideas. Cruelty and kindness are not always contradictory. Field shook his head repeatedly. Being too bloody would only lead to failure. It doesn't matter, I don't care. I don't even bother to ask about your experience. The result will tell me everything. Kurt spread his hands. Since your brain has recovered some cruelty, the family is willing to give you funding. Oh! Field's eyes lit up. This trip home was not in vain. But I can only help you once, not for a long time. Count Kurt's words had some other meanings, and one could even smell the breath of death, but his micro-expressions were controlled very delicately, and it was impossible to tell what he meant. I need slaves, craftsmen, extraordinary items, and artifacts. Field didn't care, rubbing his hands, looking forward to it. If there is a chosen one, it would be even better. You can go to the family treasury to get one artifact, hee. As for the other materials, my butler will arrange it for you. As for the chosen one, there is not a single one available. Even the Earl was not rich enough to give away the chosen one. By the way, do you know about the tyrannical curse? It is the curse of killing the descendants of the chosen one. Field has been curious about the family curse for a long time. Chapter 751. That's not true. Count Kurt's brows were so furrowed that they could almost kill a fly. Why do you ask such a question? What's wrong with you? Our family has long severed ties with the chosen god of slaughter. Don't think too much. I heard some strange rumors, and asked casually. Seeing that Kurt didn't want to talk about this topic, Field was too lazy to ask more, and the questions he asked were all lies. Have fun at the banquet tonight. I will. After leaving Kurt's private study, Field planned to go to the family library to have a look. Books are the foundation of aristocratic families. Even in this era, many books are bardic poetry or chivalric novels. Master Field, your mother wants to see you. A maid dressed in traditional clothes, and with an honest look, performed a respectful etiquette to Field. Mother. Field sighed, as if tens of thousands of ants were crawling behind him, making him feel uncomfortable. Even if it was the original owner, she could only be called Stepmother. Or Stepmother. To be honest, for a modern person, the awkward relationship between a beautiful stepmother and a beautiful stepmother is always disgusting. Not to mention, I have a very bad relationship with her. I thought she would hide, but I didn't expect her to summon me. Okay, let me see what she is going to do. Taking a deep breath, Field nodded gently and led the way. Surprisingly, the maid actually took me to the stepmother's bedroom. At this time, the stepmother was lifting her white legs, and her toes were swaying lazily as she hummed a little song. She was sitting at the dressing table and dressing up exquisitely. She was wearing a black silk pajamas with gold patterns, casually draped over her body. It was hollow, and you could faintly see some of her radiant skin. Madam, Master Field is here. Hearing the maid's report, Delia stopped pinning her headdress. She closed her eyes, her eyelashes trembling slightly. I always felt that there might be 50 swordsmen hiding in the house, but the whole house was filled with only a charming and sweet fragrance, no other smell. She must be afraid of me. After all, the other party's slightly trembling eyelashes did not look very calm. Field, why? Should I punish her severely? You are back. It's really beyond my expectation. Delia sat on the chair, turned around lazily, leaned on the chair with her right hand like a cat, and naturally covered the corner of her thin pajamas with her left hand to cover the part that made people think wildly. To be honest, I am surprised that you can come back alive. Delia smiled coldly. Well, it is obvious that she is not afraid of me, and even has a bit of honest malice. Field shrugged. What do you want to talk to me about? I just miss my son. Come, let me see if you have grown taller. Delia waved her hand. If it weren't for her cold eyes, this gentle gesture would make her look like a clingy kitten. You crazy, do you think I believe you? Field had a headache. Don't forget the etiquette and ethics of the nobility. It must be said that she is indeed the most beautiful non-chosen one he has ever seen. Field even suspected that this guy was a living person in the disguise of the Chaos God. After all, There was her mark on the small map. Huh? Then staring at your mother is not in line with the spirit of chivalry. Field looked away awkwardly. Well, even the toes were decorated with shiny rings and painted with black nail polish. Snap. The bracelet used to decorate the ankle fell on the floor, making a crisp sound. Delia pouted and tapped the bracelet twice with her toes. Pick it up for me, I want to wear it. Damn. Field couldn't stand it anymore. If he continued like this, he was really afraid that he would go crazy, so he said simply, if you have something to say, just say it. Okay, children are different when they grow up. Delia complained like a spoiled child, but fortunately her voice was cold, so people wouldn't think too much. Recently many vassals, branches, and people who were once loyal to the Ross family have died. Even the death has spread to Rose Castle. I am a woman, and I don't feel safe. I want to warn you. Be careful of your brothers and sisters, and your father. Fuck. Field was shocked and took 2 steps back. Damn it, is this something I can listen to? Aren't you afraid that I will tell my father? Field's eyes were burning. There is no secret in Rose Castle that he doesn't know. Delia held her forehead. It doesn't matter if he knows. My last name is Golden Griffin, Delia Golden Griffin. The Griffin family. That's the Queen's family. Field was almost dizzy. He didn't expect his cheap father to be so happy, and his concubine was of royal blood. Suddenly, he remembered that the Queen defeated her sister to take the throne. And the Ross family supported the Queen's sister. I think my stepmother is the Queen's sister. A pawn used to win over the Ross family. But what's annoying is that the family's investment failed, and the Queen won in the end. A family? Haha, you can say that. Sure enough, Delia laughed coldly. Oh, by the way, if you have enough strength, kill your sister as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will die in her hands sooner or later. You were attacked in the Silk territory, and it was the Imperial Guard she bribed. Agamemnon and you are actually both targets, otherwise 2 5th levels against a small baron? Funny. Delia said something shocking, and Field paced back and forth twice. Why do you want to help me? I said, I just want to protect myself. Your sister has most of the power of the Ross family, and not many people can resist her, except you who owns Chaoxia City. If she dies, you and I can both get a large amount of property, a win-win situation. Of course, there is another important reason I won't tell you. If you have an assassin like Chosen One, then go to Earl Kurt at night and take a peek, and you will know. Okay, good boy, go do your thing. Delia waved her hand and began to fiddle with her delicate makeup again, not bothering to pay attention to Field. It's really a mess. Field felt a chill down his spine. The relationships and infighting among the nobles were complicated, and there were too many cases of brothers and sisters killing each other and fathers and sons killing each other. Everyone's words were true and false. Who knew which one was a lie? Who knew who was the good guy? Back in his room, Philomena and the others gathered around him, and Field felt warm. After sharing today's events with everyone, what do you think? Field had no choice but to ask everyone's opinions. My head hurts. Humans are so scary. Ashana rolled over on the bed, covering her head. Ah bah bah. Heiyu drooled at the corners of his mouth. Philoumeni didn't hear a word, but smiled contemptuously. Is your vision limited to ridiculous family infighting? What to do, only kill. Hiss. Feld suddenly realized that he felt clear all over. That makes sense. Why should I bother about the family's trivial matters? I run away after getting the supplies. I don't care about anything else. Chapter 752. In the following days, Field was busy learning the family's fighting skills, recruiting slaves and craftsmen. At this time, in the southern part of the empire, the Silver Lake Fortress. Standing on the north bank of the Silver Lake Fortress was now filled with thick smoke, corpses and blood. The army, which was larger than the area of the Silver Lake, surrounded the Silver Lake. The Silver Lake Fortress was in an excellent location, at the corner of the lake, and the army of the Grand Duke of Gem could only besiege from 2 sides. The towering walls were densely covered with human figures, arrows flew like locusts, and magic of various elements flew up and down. From time to time, people screamed and fell from the walls. The assault team led by the Chosen Ones launched raids on the city walls with the sound of horns. But they were repelled again, and even the Chosen Ones were killed by the soldiers on the city walls. The walls of Silver Lake Fortress were not rammed earth walls. The thick walls were like a maze, filled with troops and the Chosen Ones. The shooting holes covered the entire wall, so soldiers could hide inside the wall and shoot, and if they got close, they could stab with long spears. Even if the Chosen Ones forced a hole, it would be repaired by the mages and the Chosen Ones of the garrison at night. The corners of the wall were filled with corpses of young soldiers. Silver Lake Fortress is as good as its reputation says, it's damn solid. The Duke of Jim rode on his warhorse and punched the air angrily. You killed so many of my excellent soldiers. When I defeat the false Griffin Emperor, I will raze this fortress to the ground. He estimated that it would take at least a year to take down Silver Lake Fortress under normal circumstances. Even if the 6th level attacked with all their strength, it would take 2 or 3 months. After all, there were also 6th level people in the city. Your Majesty, the legion led by your son Vaughn has captured 5 baronies in succession. The legion led by Marshal Akit defeated the governor of Roma province. The continuous favorable battle reports made the Grand Duke of Jim relieved a lot. The Griffin Empire legion led by Uniel, united with several electors and nobles, formed a vanguard army and has arrived at Golden Storm City. They are rushing towards us, trying to rescue the Silver Lake Fortress. Come on, I will defeat them fair and square. The Grand Duke of Jim was not panicked at all, but was full of fighting spirit. In just 3 days, the continuous Imperial legions arrived at the Silver Lake Plain with high morale. In the previous war with the Hero King, Uniel was not in Field's war zone, so Field was not aware of his strength. This general who was good at attacking and besieging cities was already 130 years old, but for a high-level fighting knight, this age was just a prime age. After the cavalry god of war led the light cavalry to drive away the interference troops of the Grand Duke of Jim, Uniel immediately sent out mages to build city walls and soldiers to build camps. At the fastest speed, a position that stretched for more than 10 miles was built, and it could be moved back and forth, with each doing its own job. The Grand Duke of Jim tried to take advantage of the opportunity to launch a surprise attack, but only left behind hundreds of soldiers' bodies. Inside the Imperial Army camp. Report: 30,000 Imperial Army troops have been fully mobilized. Local legions from provinces such as Morningwind and Roma, totaling 18,000, have joined us, and the noble legions have all handed over command, totaling 54,000 people. Of course, the Imperial Army is more than these. The rest of the army went to occupy small strongholds or rescue friendly forces. The soldiers on hand are all brave and elite. The wise god of choice has finished his report. Very good. Uniel's hair is gray, but his spirits are high. He glanced at the god of choice in the tent. There are 4 6th level and more than 30 5th level gods. The number of god of choice is no less than that of the Grand Duke of Jim. As for the lords and generals, in addition to the old generation of the empire, there are also newcomers such as Shirley, Loron and Dame. Stupid traitor, dare to start a war. All conspiracies and tricks are vulnerable in front of the Iron Fist. Look at me, with the force of thunder, let the Jim family be buried with the dead people of the Griffin Empire. Attack immediately. Yes. Griffin calendar February 28th, 1:16 p.m. Without any hesitation, Uniel, who had just finished resting his army, immediately sent out the whole army. The flag of the Imperial Army was a uniform gold color with a griffin pattern on it. Tens of thousands of troops came out in full force, with flags flying everywhere, almost impenetrable. Create forests, build earth slopes, and change the terrain. The ground was raised, and a large area of trees grew behind the Imperial Army. The archers and mages were immediately covered by the trees. Shirley led 1,000 heavy cavalrymen to spread out in a scattered formation. Uniel, under the protection of the Chosen One, rode a cool griffin and soared in the sky, taking in the arrangement of the Grand Duke of Jim. The current situation is that the Grand Duke of Jim is in the middle, Uniel is in the formation to the north of the Grand Duke, and the Silver Lake Fortress is besieged to the south of the Grand Duke. In theory, attacking the siege army from behind is an extremely simple and effective tactic. But the number of the Grand Duke of Jim is too large, almost covering the entire plain, large and small military formations and camps, even. Back. There is no concept of this, there are legions everywhere. The Silver Lake is filled with the lake warships of the Grand Duke of Jim. On the other side of the Silver Lake, there is also an endless crowd of people, but it is a mixed bag and does not look like an army. The enemy's army is more than 3 times ours, and there are troops on the other side. Wait, there are so many old, weak, women and children. Uniel looked out for a moment and showed a puzzled expression. Why are there babies in the rebels' logistics team? Babies can't make fire to cook, and they can't relieve the heat of the soldiers. They are a complete burden. After returning to the ground and asking the Imperial officials around, I finally understood what was going on. It turns out that when the Grand Duke of Jewels goes to war, he will bring the families of the soldiers with him. First, they can be used as hostages, greatly reducing the possibility of soldiers defecting. Second, they can be used as logistics, relying on the fleet supply line, without worrying about food. Third, it can increase the morale of the soldiers. After all, if they lose the war, their families will be the first to be hit. In the true sense, behind you are your wives, children and elders. What a jerk. Uniel laughed. Soon, the Grand Duke of Gem, surrounded by countless people, was wearing a shining robe, a Sia crown on his head, and riding a white-winged Pegasus. In terms of style, he has already won. The Grand Duke of Gem only said, "Long live the Gem Empire. Long live the Grand Duke of God's blessing. Long live the Grand Duke of God's blessing." The soldiers around him dared not shout. They thought of their wives and children in the rear. Instantly, tears filled their eyes, and they jumped and jumped, shouting at the top of their lungs, vowing to kill all the enemies. While the army of the Grand Duke of Gem was shouting, Uniel sent out light cavalry to test, but they were all repelled by the crazy rebels. What morale is this? Uniel couldn't help but complain. Brave knights, eat up the enemy's cavalry. The Grand Duke of Gem took the lead in issuing an order, 6th level God-chosen Alexandra, open your domain and bless the cavalry. Chapter 753. Although the 6th level God-chosen has the ability to easily massacre a city and influence the situation of a war. But the God-chosen of the Empire are all taught by the same master, and they are very familiar with each other. Basically, they can't break each other's moves. The two sides may fight for 10 days or half a month without a clear winner. Therefore, both sides have achieved a strange tacit understanding. When the army is defeated, the 6th level will retreat to preserve their strength. Under the aura of various magic, fighting spirit and divine skills, the combat effectiveness of ordinary fish has soared. It is no longer a joke for a farmer to fight a first-level monster with his bare hands. In the formation of the Grand Duke of Gem, Alexandra's domain enveloped the vanguard cavalry. Follow me to break through the formation, the goddess of war protects me. Nicole, the 5th level God-chosen, roared domineeringly. If it were an ordinary battle, the 5th level God-chosen would be the trump card, but in this battle, even the governors of various provinces could only stand on both sides of the conference table and stare blankly, and the number of 5th level cavalry was even more terrifying. The 4,000 vanguard cavalry, like sharp knives, rushed straight to Shirley's rangers, and the colorful robes rustled. Although there were only 4,000 horses, those who have seen horses galloping know that even a dozen horses galloping are magnificent. 1,000 cavalrymen charged, and ordinary infantrymen could only see the rushing enemy and nothing else. Fight for the Queen. Shirley kept boosting morale and dispersed the soldiers. Dispersed troops have no ability to resist the charge. The moment they met the enemy, Shirley's cavalry was scattered by Nicole and surrounded. Nicole's vanguard cavalry surrounded and divided Shirley's cavalry, killing them one by one. Haha, the great public security of the gem has been long, and you dare to charge my scattered soldiers. Uniel saw the cavalry being killed like cattle and sheep, and laughed instead of getting angry. 6th level God-chosen Cilios, deploy domain-enhanced long-range, archers, mages, saturation shooting. The imperial sun that Field had seen before, the moment when the domain bloomed and covered the forest. Countless long-range spells, crossbows, and javelins flew out in groups like a flock of rising birds, and the rain of arrows burned with the brilliant light after being enhanced by divine power, saturating Nicole and Shirley's cavalry. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A total of 5,000 cavalry from both sides were shot indiscriminately, and various divine skills fell, and blood and flesh burst out like an erupting volcano. Nicole's vanguard cavalry was numerous, and in a dense formation, so they were immediately devastated and shot off their horses in large numbers. Shirley's rangers were scattered, so fewer people were killed by mistake. Damn it, they are crazy, even killing their own people. The Grand Duke of Boucher was shocked. He thought he was cruel enough, but he didn't expect the enemy's commander to be even more cruel. Shirley was the child of a great noble, and Uniel was really not afraid of being punished later. Send out our knights to counter-encircle the enemy. Upon hearing the order, the imperial army killed more than 1,000 other knights, and wrapped the enemy's vanguard cavalry like a baby. After a fierce fight, Nicole escaped with only 2 lieutenants and more than 100 seriously injured knights, and the main force was completely annihilated. Your Majesty, Nicole didn't dare to raise her head. It's not a big problem. The Grand Duke of Jewels gritted his teeth in anger, feeling extremely aggrieved. He had received war education since he was a child, but his actual combat skills were far inferior to those of famous generals, and he had no famous generals who were good at commanding. After suffering a loss, the Grand Duke of Jewels suppressed his nausea, smiled on his face, and pointed at Uniel with a whip and laughed. He who even killed his own people and had no morals, and chivalry will inevitably fail. There's no need to test it. We have a huge advantage in manpower. We will attack with all our forces. Even if 3 of us replace one of the enemy, we can still win. Also, turn around the trebuchets that are attacking the city and attack the enemy camp from a distance. The Grand Duke of Jim intends to rely on the absolute advantage in manpower to directly defeat the enemy and use random punches to kill the master. If he plays with formations and strategies, he might be defeated by the enemy. Long live! The shouts of long live resounded through the sky like a landslide and tsunami, and countless legions marched forward. Shirley returned to her own army with more than 100 cavalrymen, covered in blood. Everyone looked at her with admiration. In the entire empire, Shirley was probably the only one who could take advantage of the low human rights advantage, and was willing to use herself as bait. If it were Field, the commander would have run away overnight if he had let his army be used as bait. For the empire, for Her Majesty the Queen. Uniel also shouted and ordered his army to hold on. The governors and generals of various provinces kept issuing various orders, whether to dispatch troops, to project missiles from a distance, or to raise shields for defense. Everything went smoothly. The army of the Grand Duke of Jewels was like a flood that broke through a dam, and with arrows flying everywhere, it slammed hard into the forest of spears and halberds of the imperial army. The moment the 2 armies came into contact, a fierce fight broke out immediately, and blood surged like waves. Weapons collided, sparks flew, and various magical skills blasted out gaps like cannonballs, which were immediately filled by the crowd. Some military formations were broken and scattered, and were immediately replaced by other military formations. It was like a bloody millstone, with gurgling blood gathering into a harmony, and heads were kicked around like balls, which was extremely tragic. In the wars of this era, soldiers' morale is low, and they are prone to collapse. But the collapsed soldiers will not disappear. They will be gathered by officers, and reorganized into a corps to continue fighting. The 2 sides fought for 2 hours, and countless soldiers were killed and wounded. Even the 5th-level God-chosen were killed. Even the elite Imperial Corps could not gain an advantage in the face of absolute numbers. The morale of the rebels is too high. We should retreat. Shirley, who was almost covered in blood, panted and suggested to Uniel. Oh, a woman's ridiculous idea. Uniel was too lazy to explain. Order Lei Ying to lead the noble cavalry to attack the left side of the rebels. Send out the decapitation team to go straight into the middle and kill the enemy leader. In less than half an hour, Uniel's tactics failed. The cavalry broke through 3 formations in a row and then fell into an encirclement, killing and wounding a large number of fighting knights. The decapitation team, composed of 10 5th-level divine selections, made 6 consecutive raids, but was repelled by the fearless soldiers. At the most dangerous time, even the Grand Duke of Jim himself was seen, but countless soldiers shouted long live, and were willing to die as a flesh and blood shield. 3 people from the beheading team eventually disbanded, and 1 died in battle, so they returned to the barracks to rest. Sir, if we attack again, I expect to be defeated at 8 o'clock in the evening. The wise God's chosen adjutant on the side immediately dissuaded, the enemy is too numerous, and we can't win without strategy. Don't worry, I already have a plan. Unier didn't panic at all, and even asked everyone with a smile, what ideas do you have? See if anyone has similar ideas to mine. I have an idea. Surprisingly, the one who proposed the idea was a handsome young man. It was the shadow cultist who had fought with Field and the Tulip Baron of the Empire, Dame. Dame said coldly, the rebels are fearless and brave. A big part of the reason is that they want to protect their wives and daughters. We can start with their wives and daughters. Chapter 754. Well said, victory or defeat is often not in the battle, but outside the battle. The enemy's strength is also the enemy's weakness. If they dare to put their relatives behind the army, then they are not ordinary civilians, but rebels. Any means are reasonable to deal with the villains who hurt the people. Damei, you are very good, your ideas coincide with mine. I have sent out the most elite Griffin Knights to raid the enemy's family camp. Uniel excitedly waved his fist. Now, loyal guards of the Queens, kill the enemy as much as you want. Everyone was amazed. Woo woo woo. The sad horn sounded. The reserve army of the Imperial Legion marched forward with great pressure, and the halberds inserted diagonally were as dense as reeds. The previously defeated soldiers were also regrouped, and almost all the chosen ones went out. The number of the Gem Legion was still boundless, and it had more complete legions, maintaining its advantage. The Imperial army is on the verge of collapse, and wants to fight me to the death. The Grand Duke of Gem was overjoyed. Under normal circumstances, An army of tens of thousands of people needs to have a certain number of reserve troops and legions to cover the rear. But Uniel had put all his chips on the line, which meant that he could no longer retreat calmly. Ha ha, the goddess of victory is waving at me. For the family behind me, attack. Kill one enemy, and I will reward you with a gold coin. Kill one chosen one, and you will be promoted to a higher rank. The Grand Duke of Gem was not stingy with his rewards. Kill! Countless armies, stepping on a mountain of corpses, launched an attack on the Imperial army with high morale. Soldiers were shot and killed by arrows along the way, and immediately there were soldiers to fill the gaps. Just before the enemy was about to meet. Boom! Continuous explosions broke out in the rear of the Legion, and the soldiers on the front line didn't even react. Until the second explosion, accompanied by crying and screaming, came with the sound of the wind, and the Grand Duke of Boucher scratched his ears with a strange look on his face. He heard the shouting of help, and the Imperial army is slaughtering in the rear. The Grand Duke of Boucher looked back, and just one glance almost scared him to death. On the other side of Silver Lake, 80,000 military families were cooking in the camp, praying that their families would return safely. Unexpectedly, a griffin army of 1,000 people suddenly descended from the sky. Violet, the 5th-level God-Chosen, is one of the leaders of the Imperial Griffin Knights, and her subordinates are all 5th-level fighting knights. In the dazzling light of the setting sun, he drank the invisibility potion, restrained his breath, and went around to the family camp. Brave Griffin Knights, use your claws to tear apart any scum who resists the Empire. After saying that, the knights threw out their fighting skills. Flame Holy Sword together. 1,000 fighting skills fell, as spectacular as sparks in the sky. The entire family camp was instantly turned into a sea of fire. Countless old, weak, women and children were blown to pieces by the fighting spirit. Fold your wings, rush into the crowd, and turn the enemy into a symbol of our honor. Under the control of the knights, the griffin folded its wings and turned into a golden missile, smashing into the crowded crowd. Then, the powerful griffin cavalry rushed left and right in the crowd. The griffins charged out a bloody road, and the knights' lances carried 5 or 6 people, still wailing in pain. The flames quickly ignited the tents, food, and the craftsmen's camp. Fires were everywhere. The garrison troops protecting the family camp were weak and caught off guard. They were unable to organize a decent defense. A 5th-level God-Chosen rushed to fight. Violet relied on her absolute strength to kill him in just 5 rounds. The burning and screaming spread quickly across the Silver Lake like a plague, infecting the Grand Duke's army that was fighting. Every soldier couldn't help but look back. Those were their wives and children. Now they are struggling in the flames and lances. Why are we still fighting? I want to save my wife and children. My mother is still on the other side. Almost instantly, all the legions of the Grand Duke of Gem began to collapse. The soldiers had no intention of fighting. The determined soldiers kept looking back, while the weak ones turned around and ran back. The chosen ones were left alone to face the army. Voila! Our military food reserves and magic core arrow reserves are all in the rear. The consultants around him almost popped their eyes out. This is not in line with the spirit of chivalry, and not in line with the etiquette of the nobility. The Grand Duke of Gem felt cold all over. Quick, retreat, retreat to the south bank of Silver Lake. The rebels have lost their will to fight. Warriors, embrace your victory. Uniel roared and personally led the army to attack. Knight Loran led the cavalry and rushed in violently from the right side, instantly breaking through the 1st and 2nd legions of the right army formation, and then rushed into the mage army formation to kill. The garrison troops of the Silver Lake Fortress keenly sensed the opportunity and attacked the Grand Duke's rear from the fortress, and the archer camp was in trouble. The main force of the Imperial army crushed them head-on. Attacked from all directions, the hundreds of thousands of people of the Grand Duke of Gem were defeated again and again. The Grand Duke's 6th-level God-Chosen tried to save the situation. But they didn't even raise their hands, and were directly dragged into the alien space by the Imperial God-Chosen. The terrible thing is that if they were defeated normally, they could still escape to the woods and mountains, or at worst be chased by cavalry on the plains, and there was still a chance of survival. But behind them was the Silver Lake, and jumping into the water was no different from committing suicide. The Grand Duke's warships wanted to come to support, but it caused even worse results. Everyone wanted to seize that little chance of survival, and they even lost the courage to fight to the death. Tramplings broke out everywhere, and the fragile mages were crushed to death by the infantry, and the infantry were crushed to death by the cavalry. Finally, they were driven by the Imperial army and pushed into the Silver Lake like dumplings. Those who could swim and those who couldn't swim were crowded together, and coupled with the cold weather, The silver lake quickly turned into a sea of blood and corpses. The floating grease in the lake began to burn, and even set several warships on fire. In an instant, the soldiers on the north bank of Silver Lake watched in despair as their families on the other side were slaughtered. They were defeated and killed one by the Imperial army like do eat. The surface of Silver Lake was full of dead bodies, and warships were burning. The family camp on the south bank of Silver Lake was like hell on earth under the butcher knife of the Griffin Knights. It's over, it's all over. The Grand Duke of Gem seemed to have aged 50 years, watching everything he had in despair, burning in the flames. Your Majesty, we still have a chance. Don't worry about the army. We will retreat immediately. The chosen one beside him carried the Grand Duke, abandoned the army, and took advantage of the chaos to leave. On the side of the Imperial army, everyone killed heartily. Dame enjoyed the scenery with interest. Looking at the enemies struggling in the flames, he laughed, burn to ashes. Young man, you are very good. Uniel shook off the blood on his hands, nodded appreciatively, and laughed. This feat of defeating the majority with the minority is enough to be passed down forever with the Griffin Empire. In this empire, how many people can defeat the majority with the minority, haha. Damiai suddenly thought of the battle at the border fortress and blurted out, Enfield. I really want to compete with him. Uniel was curious, who is Field? Chapter 755. The news of the defeat of the Grand Duke of Gem immediately caused an uproar in the empire. After the defeat in the Battle of Silver Lake, the Grand Duke of Gem lost 4 battles in a row. He was driven back to the eastern part of the empire in one fell swoop, relying on the fortress to hold on, and completely lost the possibility of winning the throne in a short period of time. The rebellions in various parts of the south were quickly quelled, and a large number of rebels were incorporated. When the news reached Rose Castle, Field's heart was alarmed, and he felt that the Queen's victory was not a good thing. The Queen actually has so many troops. How did she lose the war with the hero king? Is it true that they are good at civil wars, but not good at foreign wars? Field was amazed. The Griffin Empire's reign has not ended yet. Ashina was a little superstitious, my lord. This may be the will of the goddess. I don't know the reign, but if we defeat the Grand Duke of Gem, the rebels in the empire will be much more restrained. The Queen's authority will be greatly enhanced. Field didn't want to stay any longer, and immediately ordered, let's go, count the supplies, and then return to the territory. As soon as he went out, he ran into his sister Jianan. Brother, I heard you're leaving today. Jianan held a candy in his mouth. You won't stay for 2 more days. I want to go play with you. There will be a chance in the future. Okay. Jianan pouted in dissatisfaction and slapped his head. By the way, has your Chaoxia city built a portal? If not, you can go to the Royal Astrology Observatory in the Imperial Capital or the headquarters of the Magic Association. Spend some money, and you can build a large portal, which will make it much more convenient to come back. Oh, I almost forgot about the portal. Field's eyes lit up. He could connect the Dawn Territory and the Night Territory. Sir, the convoy is ready. Cal ran back with a red face. These days, he was crazy about pretending in the family, and his emotional value was greatly satisfied. This is the material report. Come with me to check it again. Field didn't dare to be careless. This time, there were valuable artifact buildings in the cargo. Walking in front of a huge carriage, Field opened the magic cargo box, and a strange object similar to a stove was lying flat in it. The core of the furnace is a blue diamond-shaped gem, which emits a calm and powerful divine power ripple. My lord, what is this? Hey, you came over curiously. This is the 5th level artifact I selected from the family treasury. Absolute Barrier. Artifact, Absolute Barrier, 5th level, building type, source, Guardian Goddess. Description, after being activated, this artifact will release a huge protective shield to prevent enemies from breaking in and long-range attacks. The protection range is 50 square kilometers, and the shield can withstand the full-strength attack of the 5th level God's Choice. The barrier lasts for 3 days, and needs a month to cool down. In addition to this artifact, Field obtained a large amount of cloth, various levels of fighting spirit potions, magic rose seeds, and the craftsman he had always wanted. Even apprentices who could touch a hammer were all packed up and taken away. In one go, he absorbed a total of 200 stonemasons, blacksmiths, and tailors, and even a valuable magic pharmacist who could mix common potions. In addition, Field purchased 1,000 slaves in Golden Eagle City. We go home. No matter how the situation changes, it is urgent to improve our strength. We must strengthen our military strength, prepare for the northern expedition to the corpses, and expand our living space. Field felt a sense of crisis for no reason, as if he was stared at by a beast, and his back was secretly cold. Back in the night territory, a warm breath hit me. When the people of the territory saw the Lord's carriage, men usually covered their hearts with one hand and bowed, while women lifted their skirts. This is the feeling of home. Field went to the city hall first, and listened to a long list of government reports. There was nothing important in the territory. It's strange, why hasn't the war reparations from this Vero family been delivered yet? Knocking on the table, Field looked up and said in confusion, even if it takes a long time to raise funds, there is no reason not to send an envoy. Their chosen ones and soldiers are no longer needed. Should we send an envoy to urge them? The reporting clerk suggested. Well, just send a letter. Field was not in a hurry at all. Anyway, we don't support their soldiers in vain, send them all to the mines. And the chosen ones too, they are very efficient at work. Train the new craftsmen and let them start from unimportant positions. Send the slaves to the morning curtain. Call the tailors to the city hall. I have important things for them to do. After arranging the slaves, the little fox came to the door. Sir, the artillery team's artillery has been fully equipped. In addition, the armor factory has been built. According to your instructions, samples of complete human figures and corrupted demon plate armor have been produced. The little fox stretched out his hands and gestured a big circle to show how powerful this project is. Plate armor, is it the iron plate that was hung around people's necks? Ashina scratched her head awkwardly. In her opinion, that thing looked like a steel apron, which looked very stupid. Improved version. Little Fox stood with his hands on his hips. It was processed by a pedal lathe, which is much more refined. It was built by workers in the industrial zone. Pedal lathe? Field was very surprised. Although various primitive lathes were already in use in this era. But most of the night territory relied on manual labor, or more primitive and rough lathes. If they needed to build refined equipment, such as cannons, they usually relied on Little Fox. Yes, it was built by the Lewis blacksmith brothers. Here are the drawings. The Little Fox handed over the drawings of the pedal lathe. It was not complicated. The crankshaft plus the grinder driven by the flywheel were simple and common mechanical structures, and they did not even conform to the mechanical structure. But it could bring higher work efficiency to the factory. Well done, reward them with 10 gold coins each and promote them one level. Field said with satisfaction, I will give you another idea. There are about 11 types of lathes, boring machines, grinders, gear processing machines. Talk about the major categories of lathes and their purpose of construction. I only provide ideas, I hope you can realize them, do it boldly. Okay, I write it down. The little fox wrote it all down. Ashina scratched her head and cheeks. She wanted to see the plate armor, but she was afraid of disturbing the adults, so she could only rush around anxiously. Our general can't wait any longer. Field turned around and took Ashina's hand. Let's go and see the new equipment of the army. Industrialization is also a social division of labor. Originally, armor was made directly by steel mills and blacksmiths. But it is very inconvenient to mix armor, artillery and farm tools together. Therefore, various new factories are being built at a rapid pace. When they arrived at the workshop, they immediately saw the shiny plate armor, which was used by humans. The style was influenced by Field's aesthetics, and was closer to the Gothic plate armor seen by modern people. The Cheryl-style helmet can be opened and closed up and down, with a good field of vision. The chest protrudes outward, presenting a pyramid-shaped dome-integrated steel plate. Chapter 756. So handsome. Ashina's eyes lit up. Of course, appearance is also part of combat effectiveness. Ferocious and terrifying equipment can effectively deter the enemy. Field walked to the armor designed for the corrupted army. Whether it was the dragon-winged demon or the ordinary corrupted demon, the armor was similar. The Nordic barbarian style, half-face helmet, each shoulder armor was equipped with a long fawn-like spike, and the rest of the parts were enlarged versions of human plate armor. In order to save unnecessary trouble, the corrupted demon had no shoes and gloves, but a loin cloth that almost reached the ankles, which could effectively defend against the enemy and stab the mosaic area of the corrupted demon, and it looked more like an evil cultist. They are all very handsome. Field was very satisfied. The previous armor of the corrupted legion was all modified and far less powerful than mass-produced armor. It's a pity. If there were stronger ores, we could forge Dookie armor. Speaking of this, the little fox was dejected. No matter how powerful these armors are, they are only level 0. It doesn't matter. After the style and structure are finalized, it's just a matter of changing the material in the future. Besides, even if Dookie armor is made, no one can wear it. This is a common problem encountered by the nobles of the empire. There are too few high-end combat forces. Fighting knights are mostly used as commanders, commandos, or elite soldiers. Strengthening the combat effectiveness of ordinary people has high returns and quick results. It is definitely a worthwhile investment. Before, he might be killed by a slap from the chosen one, but now, he is killed by 2 slaps. That is a huge improvement. Don't underestimate this difference. Thousands of soldiers strengthen their defense at the same time, and the effect is extremely significant. My lord, let me play for a while. No, let me test it. Ashina held Field's arm and swung. Sure, let's go to the military camp for a test, just so everyone can have an idea. At this time, as a new soldier, Luobo was training with his companions to stand at attention. They were required to stand in the camp and maintain a correct posture. In just 5 minutes, Luobo was already sweating profusely. He felt that this was more tiring than mining. Hold on, for my daughter. Thinking of his 3-year-old daughter, and the delicious broth in the military camp, Luobo gritted his teeth and persisted. He knew that standing at attention would take half an hour. Ro, have you heard? The Lord is going to use troops against the Viscount. The soldier next to him whispered. Oh my God, we are not going to the battlefield. At least we should learn to swing sticks like those patrols, right? What's the point of just standing there? Are we going to stand there and be eaten by corpses? Another soldier whispered. Hearing this, Luobo was also scared. He had just escaped from slavery and didn't want to die. You 3, you seem to be having a good time chatting. The officer with a frown on his face came over to teach them a lesson. Ah! Carrot was almost scared. In his hometown, if you angered an officer or a knight, you would be hanged. Ahem, Hall, come and help test the new armor. I need volunteers. Field strode into the barracks and waved to Hall. Hall glared at the 3 of them and said, I deal with them later. You turned around and saluted in front of Field. Carrot was in a trance. Oh my God, I actually met the Lord. Our Lord is called the man favored by God. He made everyone live a good life. Even Lao and I, who broke his legs in the war, could get enough supplies every month to survive the winter. Unfortunately, he might be executed by Instructor Hall because he didn't earn enough gold coins. Baron, how do you want to test it? Hall knocked on the plate armor and looked surprised. Such a strong defense. Even I may have to use all my strength to break it. Hall is a 3rd-level fighting knight. You know after you try it. Come, put it on for me, and you come and stab him twice. Field rubbed his hands in preparation. Hearing this, Hall almost fell to his knees in fear, hugged Field's thigh and shouted, Don't be like this, sir, I do it, I do it. Seeing Hall's enthusiasm, the little fox had an idea, and used the clever fox to put the plate armor on Hall. In the blink of an eye, Hall turned into a steel monster. Sir, come and test it. You come and stab him twice. Field pointed to the nearest Carrot, and asked someone to give him a bunch of weapons. Ah! Robo cried. He had already offended the officer. If he stabbed him again, he would be hanged. What are you afraid of? Come on. Hall was sensitive, and knew the strength of the plate armor. Helpless, Luobo had to chop Hall twice with his knife, with the determination to die. Hall did not even retreat, and there were only some inconspicuous marks on the plate armor. Hall shouted and urged, Push harder, you haven't eaten, I didn't deduct your food money. Come on, more people, come together. At the urging of the officers, everyone attacked with swords, spears, and halberds. They even used hammers and crossbows, which made the scene very exciting. Half an hour later, a set of brand new plate armor was completely destroyed and rotten into a ball. Very powerful equipment. Hall nodded repeatedly. The most ordinary material has a defense capability close to that of a first-level fighting armor. The soldiers inside would only feel a sting at most from ordinary sword attacks. If the blunt weapon does not attack the head, the effect will be even worse. The crossbow is far away and almost ineffective. And I feel that wearing this set of armor, my movements are not hindered. It would be nice if my doji armor also had this shape. Hall scratched his head and reported a series of feelings professionally. Many people are misled by the game and think that crossbows can easily break armor. However, the 1,000-pound capstan heavy crossbow has extremely limited killing power against plate armor, and even matchlock guns can hardly kill it. The emergence of plate armor caused the use rate of cold weapons to plummet, which promoted the advancement of firearms. The excellence of plate armor lies not only in the strength of the material, but also in the structure that conforms to defense and ergonomics. Although plate armor looks like a tin can, it has little effect on the soldier's movements. Of course, there is no need to compare Eastern and Western armor. The enemies, natural environments, and social situations encountered by both sides are different, and there are constant disputes about who is stronger, but both are suitable for their own situations. Just like there is no need to compare war horses with camels for cavalry. Field was not surprised and said with satisfaction, "Then start mass production according to this model. Adopting the mode of division of labor and assembly line, each component is produced separately." Back at the city hall, the tailors are already waiting. Take out a stack of drawings from the drawer. "Welcome everyone, I need you to help me design a batch of clothes, starting with military uniforms and underwear." Field is determined to promote clothing reform in the territory. The current clothes are either flashy or too simple and sloppy. The soldiers are wearing the clothes of the Imperial Frontier Army, typical woolen clothes with linen robes, and a lot of holes are patched up. And the color, style and pattern are all the Imperial Army, which doesn't match the night collar. Military uniform? Chapter 757. Take the draft from Field. This draft was designed by Field, refined by the painter Chinin, and finally finalized. Unprecedented clothes, I have never seen such a style. Strange design, why is the collar standing up? The tailor from the silk collar and family kept comparing the draft, and even put it in the sun to look at every detail. Ashina and Heiyuya came over and curiously watched the new clothes. The tailor held a windbreaker design in his hand, which was also a modern design, black, with a stand-up collar, a waist, and a slender windbreaker that could cover the knees. It was straight and slim, and matched with a black leather belt with a coat of arms, so handsome that he had no friends. In addition to the windbreaker, there are shirts, officer dresses, scarves, boots, etc., all black with silver decorations. Although I haven't seen it, it feels very handsome. Ashina's eyes lit up, and she immediately gave a good review. "It feels a bit evil, but I like it very much." Heiyu gave a thumbs up, and covered his face with a slightly sickly look. "It aroused my desire to destroy the world. Damn, it's better not to be awakened. I still like the obedient Heiyu. This military uniform is good in every way, but it is too aggressive and easy to be regarded as a bad guy by the local people. That's a must. First, it must fit the style of the night territory. Second, handsome uniforms can make soldiers more accepting of the army." Field put his hands on his hips and asked the tailor, "How much does it cost to make a full set of uniforms?" "It's hard to say. I looked at the material requirements. I know the others, but what material is this cotton made of?" "Tree wool. Due to the climate and rainfall in the Griffin Empire, cotton cannot be grown on a large scale here, so cotton relies on overseas imports. The evil merchants boasted that cotton is a magical material grown by the magical sheep that grows on trees. In fact, it is just an ordinary item. If it weren't for the cotton given by the family and the silk leader, Field would not want to use it. Also, think of a way to use the holy light spiders in the territory. After you make a set of military uniforms, show it to me first, and start mass production if it is qualified. As long as it can be achieved, everyone can get a gold coin reward." Field has always been very encouraging to talents who do things well. "Heiyu, call Tisifa and arrange for the Silver Dragon to guard the border fortress. The next northern expedition to the corrupted land is crucial for the Holy Light chosen. No matter how powerful the corpse is, it will be destroyed by the Holy Light, and the corrupted chosen is no exception." Before Heiyu had time to go out, the mermaid Ecologia hurried to the city hall and brought a shocking news. "My lord, a large number of warships were found in the western waters of the Dawn territory, including high-level magic warships." Ecologia was still wet, and the sweat beads slid across her fair skin, which was particularly attractive. "My mermaid sister, at about 6 o'clock in the evening of the day before yesterday, a fleet of 14 warships was discovered. The other side is flying the flags of pirates and the shadow cult, and is heading towards the direction of the Dawn territory. It will arrive at the Giant Shrimp Reef in about 4 days. The Giant Shrimp Reef is a very small island outside the Dawn territory, where the giant shrimp was discovered. It was discovered the day before yesterday, and it will arrive in 4 days. Isn't it almost here?" After hearing Icarigia's report, Field's eyes darkened. "I was preparing for the northern expedition, and the shadow cult kept making trouble for me. Fortunately, there is a mermaid outpost, otherwise I would be caught off guard. The enemy has discovered our base." Ashina smelled a conspiracy. It's only been a few days since the Imperial Guards found the night territory, and the shadow cult fleet has arrived. It's possible. Our army has not yet been trained. Heiyu was anxious. Armor is also being built. Don't panic, mobilize all artillery and 2,000 infantry, and go to the morning territory immediately. Also, Immediately order Xiao Feilong to bring all the corrupted soldiers. Sir, do you want to bring the wolf cavalry? As China raised her hand quickly, the first few batches of giant wolves are already able to fight. Counting the giant wolves accumulated before, I can appoint 54th level wolf cavalry. No, let them go to the border fortress. If they find any enemies who want to take the opportunity to attack the night territory, report immediately. I didn't expect that the extraordinary wolf cavalry can also gather 50 people. Field's military plan is focus on training ordinary troops, select loyal and reliable people, and accept the appointment of the chosen one. Those who were originally fighting knights or mages served as officers in ordinary armies or special armies. After all, it takes 3 or 4 years to train fighting knights properly, and they can't go to the battlefield. So how can they be as fast as the god's chosen guards? His own students, such as Tom and others, are also fighting knights, but he really doesn't want to use them to charge into battle. It would be great if there were more gods chosen like Ashina. After receiving Field's transfer order, the army marched to the Morning Curtain territory. At this time, above the Sea of Death, the flagship of the United Fleet, Shadow Song. My treasure, my sweetheart, shining brightly. You are my hope of becoming a god, hee. An ugly, twisted, shrunken corpse with oil and blood oozing out of its body, with a few sparse hairs hanging on its head. Carefully holding a ball of scarlet liquid, he muttered in a hoarse voice, his eyes full of love and desire. Master, we have broken through the blockade of the Elven fleet, and will soon reach the border of the Griffin Empire. Looking at the ghoul-like leader in front of her, Delilah felt sick, but had to force a smile. No one could connect the horrible ghoul in front of her with the leader of the shadow cult. After the leader received enough sacrifices, her soul power was strong enough to control her former corpse. But it was obvious that she was not good at preserving corpses. Renash's gray-blue eyes suddenly looked at Delilah. Her eyes were full of weirdness and all-seeing coldness. Haha, I see your heart, disgust, confusion and hostility. I dare not. Delilah was startled and immediately prostrated herself on the ground. Without further explanation, Renisha snapped her fingers, and Delilah's eyes immediately sparkled with love, and the corners of her mouth were filled with sweet saliva. I must dedicate myself to the shadow cult, and welcome the baptism. After a few strokes, she dispersed her divine coat, and Delilah walked in a beautiful cat-like manner, and went to the next cabin in a daze. The pirates and shadow cultists cheered immediately next door, and all kinds of cheers of blood sacrifice to the true god were mixed with strange noises that made people blush, echoing throughout the cabin. Damn Griffin Empire, it made me look like this. I'm back. This time, I want everyone to be my stepping stone. God's body, breaking through the 6th level. I can do it. Renisha let out a strange low laugh in her throat, put away the scarlet blood in her hand, licked the corner of her mouth. Bring me some vampire men, strong and healthy. Chapter 758. Let me go, you stupid blood bags. I won't suck blood anymore. Don't make me serve that disgusting corpse. I can't feel anything below my waist. Mom, kill me. For handsome vampires, clawing at the ground, were dragged away by the shadow cultists, leaving traces all the way. So scary. Leia squeezed in the smelly cabin prison, watching the vampires being captured, sweating profusely. How dare they capture the vampires in the ominous haunted house? How scary. Fortunately, I secretly prepared the ugly potion. The shadow cult came to the Frost continent in the north, and captured many sacrifices, including her. These days, men and women have been captured and tortured by those crazy people. Leia escaped with the ugly potion she prepared. Ugh. The fox girl next to her vomited. She hadn't eaten for several days, so she could only vomit some clear water and saliva. Throwing herself weakly into her mother's arms, the fox girl said painfully, Mom, I feel dizzy and hungry. Just bear with it. Her mother had no choice but to curl up and hug her daughter tightly, using her soft big tail to pillow her daughter. Leia was in despair. These frost fox people who wore rough animal skins and behaved savagely had feelings and conscience. Those shadow cultists, who wore gorgeous clothes, could only kill and burn people. Here, eat it. After struggling for a long time, Leia secretly opened a wooden board and took out half a piece of moldy black bread. Seeing the food, the fox mother was stunned for a moment, and nodded in a flattering manner. May the spirits of the ancestors bless you. Taking the black bread, the fox mother quickly stuffed the food into her daughter's mouth. Edelweiss, her name is Edelweiss, my last daughter. Humph. Leia was not interested in chatting. She blinked and stared at the only light in the cabin. Judging from the brightness, it was already dusk. However, the two fox-like people, one big and one small, were in a good mood and kept talking. They were just talking about some mysterious and aboriginal topics. For example, there would be a messenger of God to save them and bring punishment to the evil shadow cultists. But Leah felt only despair. She estimated that the fleet had already left the Frost Continent and the control range of the Elves and the White Gold Tower. Going west, they arrived at the Moonmark Continent, a barbaric and crude land, and the birthplace of the Shadow Cult villains. In addition, the Shadow Cult is also extremely powerful, and the scattered small countries in the Frost Continent are no match for the Shadow Cult. Don't even think about it, there will only be more villains here. Stupid species like you who look good but are stupid will only be eaten up. Leah wanted to say this, but she didn't want to hit these two poor people. Of course, she was also pitying herself, hoping to give herself some hope. But after hearing the pirates' conversation, Leah's hope disappeared instantly. Hey, we see land soon. I'm going to grab a woman. I've been drifting on the sea for so long, I'm almost suffocating. I heard from the Empire's insiders that night has taken over the city. I'm going to kill them all this time. The villains in the cabin were in high spirits, as if it was a holiday. Boom. Suddenly, the hull exploded like a reef, causing bursts of exclamations on the ship. The imprisoned slaves were also frightened. The ship shook violently, and everyone's brains were almost shaken. It hit a reef. No, it's still far from the coast. The villains guarding the cabin were confused and immediately ran to the deck. Fuck, did you see it? There's a huge ship over there. No, it's a deep-sea monster. I saw it has tentacles. The villains were confused. However, the waves hit, and everyone immediately saw a huge ship, a battleship that had sunk into the water. The ships in this world can be simply divided into 4 categories. Large warships, such as battleships, which are more than 200 feet long, equipped with more than 50 magic towers, and have strong firepower, merchant ships, small warships, inland sea sails, monorail clippers, lake warships, and transport ships. What's going on? Why are there warships in the water? Oh my god, I thought it was a whale. Both pirates and shadow cultists were confused. The submerged warship was the Abyss, the only warship in the Night Territory, but its combat power was a terrifying 6th-level living battleship. After Little Fat Dragon became the 4th-level God's Chosen, he transformed it, added more magic towers, and equipped it with 8 newly made 18-pound cannons. After receiving the news of the Shadow Church's attack, Field asked Ashina to send troops to support the Morning Curtain. He led the rest of the God's Chosen and the warships to sneak ahead, using the Abyss's diving ability to quickly approach the enemy fleet. In the Abyss, except Ashina, who was seasick, everyone else was there. The Shadow Church is not just passing by. Little Fatty Dragon was happy, commanding the warship with his mind. At the same time, he used the artifact magic ball to project the situation outside to everyone. He could see the expressions of the shadow cultists outside, looking around. Don't be lucky, no matter if they are passing by, the shadow cult and the pirates will have to be fought sooner or later. Field was furious. It's been 7 or 8 times, and they come to provoke me every time. Do you really think that you, Brother Faye, are made of mud? This time, I have to settle accounts with them. Since it is confirmed that they are shadow cultists, don't give them the opportunity to dock. We have to strangle them completely. Rosaria waved the gluttony great sword, very angry. Field, the shield of our warship collided with the shield of the enemy flagship, and the enemy discovered us. Okay, Surface, beat them hard, and give them a welcome gift. Field punched hard. Let them know that the Sea of Death is our territorial waters. Got it. Boom. The sea exploded, and the Abyss deliberately chose the middle of the 2 large warships, and jumped out of the water. The 2 sides were so close, that they could even see the expressions on each other's faces. Goddess, the sunken ship has floated up. The Shadow Cult members were in a frenzy, their eyes wide open. They had never seen such a scene before. Under the gaze of countless shocked eyes, Field made a friendly gesture to them. Shadow Cult bastards, all of you die. Don't give the enemy a chance to react. Divine Skill, Overture of the Storm. Icarigia was the first to use the divine skill of Gain, and circles of musical notes enveloped the entire ship. The next moment, the widened double-layer gun decks on the left and right sides of the Abyss, with hundreds of magic towers, madly poured out magic bullets like a storm. Various magic missiles hit the 2 warships fiercely. Shadow Song and Wrathful Elegy were immediately hit by the buzzing magic bullets. Boom boom boom. The 2 warships had no time to put up the divine power shield, and were hit hard. A large number of soldiers on the deck were blown to pieces, wood chips flew everywhere, accompanied by screams, and all kinds of debris flew everywhere. Try the shipborne artillery. Field urged. The rest of the Chosen Ones, according to the established plan, launched the attack. Chapter 759. The cannons infected by the abyss all exploded with thunderous roars. 8 18-pound cannons, driven by improved magic gunpowder, roared and fired straight. Boom boom! The cannons smashed into the Shadow Song warship, causing immediate penetration damage. A burst of screams came from the pierced hull. The corruption is so powerful that it can even perfectly infect weapons, such as cannons, that require delicate control. Field was amazed and took out a crossbow and shot arrows at the opposite ship, which was considered an assist. What's the noise? We've been attacked. It's so annoying. The Griffin Empire's navy is gone. The Chosen Ones of the Shadow Cult reacted after a round of bombardment. They jumped out of their beds one by one, kicked away the men or animals lying around, and ordered their men to operate the shipborne magic towers to fight back. At the same time, the Chosen Ones came to the deck to see what happened. As soon as they emerged, they saw the domineering and dark corrupted warship. At the same time, the densely packed dragon-winged demons on the corrupted warship took off quickly under the stunned gaze of everyone. The dragon-winged demons attacked the warships, like flies staring at meat. What was even more exaggerated was that a silver dragon flew up from the corrupted warship, circling and taking off, and continuously attacking with its breath. Almost all the warships of the Shadow Cult were attacked. From time to time, people were killed by lightning guns and breath, or were picked up and torn apart by the demons. It was simply a primitive version of an aircraft carrier, which made the Shadow Cultists admire it very much, the primitive version of modern naval warfare. I cursed their graves. The captain of the wind-raging elegy, Sea Rose, who is known as the Queen of the Sea, shouted angrily, "Foolish Kun women, have you lost your mind playing baptism? Quickly open that damn barrier for me." 4th level divine skill, Abyss Whale Roar. While the enemy's divine power barrier was not opened, the bow of the abyss suddenly tore open, revealing a giant pencil sharpener-like mouth full of fangs. In an instant, the surrounding divine power gathered madly, and the main gun of the abyss hit the distant Spro head-on. Pirate ship. The sea was boiling, and the Spro was penetrated, half of it was blown away, and almost scrapped. Amid screams, various short limbs fell like rain in the churning waves. The gods chosen on the abyss threw out their magical skills at the same time, such as solar bombing and endless slashing, and madly created destruction. The corrupted tentacles of the abyss grabbed the enemy's warship like a giant octopus, shaking it wildly, trying to shake the enemy into the sea. There were explosions everywhere, and the fierce firepower of the abyss made the Shadow Cult fleet cry for its parents. It's too exaggerated. What did we encounter? The royal fleet of the Dragon Tower Empire? Hai Meigui was stunned. It was the first time she encountered such a fierce warship. A warship dared to attack 5 or 6 large warships at the same time. The key is that it has a great advantage. The deck and the sea were full of corpses. "Mom, I'm scared." Shui Rong hugged her mother and screamed in fear. Leia was also scared. She could feel that there was a huge thing outside, shaking the warship. She had to hold the cage to prevent herself from being thrown out. What did we encounter? Sea monster. Wah wah. Just at this moment, mysterious and deep divine power ripples bloomed layer by layer. The water element was summoned by divine power, and quickly formed a translucent shield, covering the Shadow Song. In the ocean, the Tide God can exert its true strength. Not only are they strong in water battles, but their divine power can also pull the power of the ocean, and provide a powerful shield for the warship. Field saw with his own eyes that the magic missile had just approached the Shadow Song for 10 meters, and it was like a stone entering the water, with its speed and power greatly reduced. It only made a small pit on the deck, and its power was greatly weakened. The ships of all sizes in the entire fleet activated their shields. Rosaria and Philomena's magical attacks were immediately weakened, and could no longer be effective. The attack was weakened too much by the enemy's shield. Little Fat Dragon slapped his chest with a slap, making a crisp sound. I almost forgot that naval battles are not so easy to fight. Warships bombard each other, and it may not sink the other side in an hour or two. We only have one warship. If we are besieged by the enemy's wolf pack tactics, we will suffer a great loss. Ophelia was from the Dragon Tower Navy, so her professionalism is beyond words. Ah, I thought I could feed them all to the fish. Field sighed. Ha ha ha, that's a warship, not a coffin floating on the water. The little fat dragon laughed so hard that his body shook. It turns out that the material strength of a large warship is so high that it is almost entirely made of magical materials. In addition to the ship's own defense settings, plus the chosen ones adapted to naval battles, they provide shields and various benefits. Each large warship has amazing defense and life, and can be called a fortress on the sea. It is just as Xiao Feilong said. The enemy fleet recovered from the panic, and immediately launched a counterattack. The tentacles of the abyss were cut off by the pirates, and the chosen ones of the shadow cult. Various crossbows, magic missiles, and divine skills bombarded the abyss. The big demons running around in the sky were shot down, from time to time, and crashed on the sea. Yintong also had to increase the altitude to prevent being hit by the enemy. Boom boom! Fortunately, the abyss can also deploy a divine shield, provided by the little fat dragon and the mermaid, so the defense is also strong. Most of the enemy's projectiles were bounced off, and a few attacks landed on the hull, causing no damage. The two sides bombarded each other for a while, and Field saw that there was no advantage to be gained, but the enemy was about to form a siege. If the fight continued, it would only be a loss. The daring pirates, holding scimitars, prepared to board and fight. Ha, it's good. Field wiped the cold sweat. Anyway, this wave is not a loss. After raising the flag and summoning the great demon and the silver dragon to return, the abyss roared like a deep-sea leviathan, put away the flesh and blood canvas, and quickly plunged into the sea, sinking deeper and deeper until it disappeared. The legend of the ghost ship is true. It is said that finding a ghost ship can obtain endless treasures. The pirates talked a lot. This group of desperate people did not care about the bodies of their companions around them, and began to brag loudly. Damn, my ship is seriously damaged. A pirate god chosen was furious. He stepped on the seawater, and came to see Rose and shouted, Captain, please allow us to chase the enemy's ship. Not allowed. See, Rose thought for a moment, and looked around. There were broken wooden boards, floating cargo and corpses everywhere. The seawater was dyed red, like hell. The destructive power of the corrupted warship was too amazing. Even the experienced Sea Rose was shocked. She had never seen such a strange warship that could sink to the bottom of the water and escape. The enemy may have a high-level navy god. There is no benefit if you go there. You have to get ashore quickly. Chapter 760. Sea Rose made an empiricist mistake. She could not imagine that a corrupted god chosen could operate a warship so flexibly and skillfully use the power of the ocean for defense. She subconsciously thought that such a powerful warship must be operated by a powerful navy god chosen. If she led all the navy god chosen to pursue with all her might, it would be possible to severely damage the abyss. The abyss swam near the fleet for a while, but the perception of the shadow cult fleet extended to the bottom of the sea. With no way to launch another raid, everyone returned to the coast of Tide Village. It turns out that this operation was quite effective. Repairing the warships and preventing surprise attacks delayed the shadow cult's progress until a week later, when the combined fleet appeared in field sight. The towering masts broke through the horizon first, followed by warships sailing from afar, most of which were damaged. One of them was on the edge of the wreck, and the shape of the ship could hardly be seen. It was simply a large bathtub. Damn, it's coming for us. Field cursed. What are the Imperial officials doing? They are just helping the shadow cult, right? As soon as the Imperial guards arrived, the shadow cult came to visit the next day. Sir, the artillery is in place. The trenches and low walls are all set up, and the people are evacuated urgently. Ashina reported in high spirits. Each soldier has been issued a crossbow and a bow. Unfortunately, Tide Village does not have a stone wall facing the sea, so it can only rely on the village for defense. After all, the territory has limited construction workers, and the coastal wall has not been built. Fortunately, Tide Village is already at the level of a town, and it is full of stone houses, so the defense is good. In addition, a watchtower was built on the northern cliff, with an 18-pound cannon fixed to provide supporting firepower. It's best not to let the enemy enter Tide Village. Field was unhappy. He was planning to make Dawn Territory a major sea trade city in the future. Well, fishing has been stagnant these 2 days, and the pearl oysters we raised will only be able to harvest pearls in a month. Mermaid Akalesia looked sad. After they were placed in Tide Village, they caught a lot of wild pearl oysters, which can produce pearls and can be exchanged for a lot of gold coins. It's a pity indeed. My sisters went to search for the giant shrimp. We wanted to serve you fresh shrimp meat, but the plan failed. Ikaresia pouted and put her hands on her hips in a huff. Feld was happy and amused when he saw this. He coaxed and lied to make Miss Mermaid feel better. Ashina narrowed her eyes and thought to herself, this little girl is really good at flattering. She is simply a great traitor. She tried to make you indulge in the gentle land of beauties and delicious food. How despicable. The enemy is approaching. Open fire after hearing my order. On the other side, the combined fleet also looked at the Dawn territory. What? The Dawn territory was actually recovered. That's right, the Night territory was also recovered. It's incredible. Lina Shah, the leader of the Shadow Cult, stroked her face. It's been more than 10 years. It seems like just yesterday. Griffin Empire, you will pay me back with blood for what you owe me. Master, are you sure there won't be an Imperial fleet? See, Rose stepped forward. The local nobles don't seem to welcome us very much. They have already formed their array. If they inform the Empire, there will inevitably be. No. Rina Shah laughed. There are my people inside the Empire. Even if there are troops coming, they are here to kill Field. That would be the best. But you should be careful. Rina Shah smiled meaningfully. He can defend against the attack of tens of thousands of people without relying on his family or the Empire. Others don't know Field's strength, but Rina Shah knows it. Linhai is our territory. There is no border fortress here. See, Rose shrugged. The Baron should be handsome and humorous. I've been a little dry lately, and I need someone who can speak eloquently to cheer me up. Hee, it will be much easier to take over the Morning Curtain territory and have a stable base. Although Rina Shah thinks highly of Field, she doesn't think he can stop her. The Shadow Cult has all its combat power, and the opponent has no 6th level defense, so the only outcome is death. With her brows relaxed, See, Rose shouted, the enemy is just a pitiful and pathetic Baron. Lively boys, attack hard. I allow you to plunder and reproduce at will. Queen of the Sea! Queen of the Sea! The pirates roared and jumped. Look at them, with such morale, I am not afraid even if the regular army of the Empire comes. See, Rose was very proud. Charge, land. 300 or 400 of the most brutal pirates took the landing speedboat as the vanguard and rowed towards the coast at high speed. At the same time, 2 transport ships, escorted by 2 small warships, carrying full soldiers, followed closely and launched the landing operation. As for large warships, they would not get too close to the coast, because they would run aground. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the coast, the top leaders of the Shadow Cult and the pirates were all concentrating on watching the battle. Boom! Hearing the thunder, See, Rose wanted to look up at the sky, but the white fog that suddenly rose from the distant coast attracted her more. Before she could ask, dozens of iron balls whistled and drew shocking trajectories in the air. The originally calm sea surface instantly exploded with a large amount of water columns, and mud and water splashed. This scene stunned the high-ranking officials. There was no divine power or magic fluctuation, but the sea surface exploded. Yi Mu led 3 artillery teams with 24 guns, plus the urgently transferred artillery and fixed shore defense artillery, and managed to gather 30 guns. Once the artillery was opened, it was extremely spectacular. The shells whistled, and a small sampan carrying 20 pirates was directly hit by the artillery. The whole ship was broken in half, and the pirates on the ship immediately showed the fragility of life. The ones hit by the shells exploded into blood mist directly, without even saying a last word. 3 or 4 unlucky guys were scratched by the flying hull fragments, and blood rushed, dyeing the sea red. The rest were knocked unconscious and injured, and fell into the sea and died miserably. It takes great courage to row forward under the cannon fire, and many of the pirates' boats hesitated. And the result of hesitation is more intense bombardment. A transport ship was bombarded 7 or 8 times in a row, and even the mast was broken, and it stopped in place. The flying cannon fire could even hit the fleet watching the battle in the distance, and the ships had to retreat in fear. What the hell is that? See, Rose was shocked. It's a weapon I've never seen before. It should be some kind of catapult. Raynasha calmed down a lot. It's just that the range is too far. Carrying the artillery attack, the pirates barely approached the coast. Free fire. At the command, the soldiers hiding behind the temporary low wall immediately stood up and fired at the sea. Field adopted a pocket-shaped defense line, deliberately leaving an open space for landing, but in fact the arrows from 3 sides could form a crossfire. Chapter 761. Dense rain of arrows flew in all directions. Behind the low wall, on the rooftops in the distance, and on the sentry towers, arrows were almost everywhere, harvesting the lives of pirates wantonly. The poor pirates didn't even have decent armor, and immediately became living targets, shot to death by the overwhelming arrows. The pirates, who luckily got ashore, were nailed to the shore before they could even touch the low wall. In just a moment, the entire beach was full of hedgehog-like corpses. Seeing the tragic end of the pioneers, who landed on the beach, the soldiers on the transport ship were not happy. They came to rob and kill, not to die. Landing battles are difficult, and the enemy's military strength is far greater than ours, so there is no possibility of victory. Helplessly, The fleet sent out flag signals to signal the fleet to retreat. The chosen ones of Night Lord used their divine skills to try to sink the enemy's ships, but were blocked by the enemy's naval chosen ones. On the sea, the naval chosen ones have a great advantage. Taking this opportunity, 2 small warships began to rescue the transport ship with a broken mast, intending to tow it back. The artillery of Night Lord immediately concentrated their fire, and most of the shells were blocked by the divine shield, but many also fell on the enemy's ships, making the pirates cry for their parents, and from time to time someone was blasted into a bloody mist. Is this the number of troops a baron can have? It's too exaggerated. See, Rose's smile disappeared. The resistance of the Dawn territory was more intense than she had imagined. She was shocked and said, "Master, didn't you say that the empire is about to collapse? Why is it so difficult to deal with a baron?" She had been the king of the sea for a long time, but she didn't expect to be frustrated when landing in a small place. She was very hurt. It's strange that a baron who can recover the corrupted land would be shattered at the touch of a finger. Renishaw frowned slightly. She was estimating the combat power of the Night Territory's gods chosen, and considering whether to attack in person. Although he had the strength of the 5th level peak, it was only the soul and the artifact, and the body was just a ghost. Roar. Hearing the shocking humming like a whale, the huge corrupted warship rose from the sea under the horrified eyes of countless people. The abyss, which was ambushed here, came quickly, blocked the strait, and cut off the retreats of the Shadow Cult's advanced troops. A large number of magic bullets covered the advanced troops like a rainstorm. A small warship could not withstand such firepower. The shield was broken, the waterline was damaged, and it began to sink. Damn it, it's that monster warship again, it appears at the perfect time. See, Rose felt a toothache. Elegy of the Wrath of the Wind, attack immediately and rescue them. At the same time, see, Rose burst out with 5th level divine power, 5th level divine skill, prehistoric giant shark. The first move was a killing move. After all, in her opinion, the one who controls such a warship is definitely a top-level navy god. The gorgeous curved seal turned into 6 streams of light, and fell into the sea. Endless ocean elements obeyed its command, and formed a blue-black magic circle in an instant. Everyone could see 6 scarlet eyes in the seawater, rapidly enlarging. The next moment, the seawater exploded, and a giant shark with 6 blood-red eyes tore its huge mouth and bit the abyss. At the same time, a turbulent stream of water blasted out of the giant shark's mouth. Boom! The shield of the abyss instantly exploded into countless water droplets, and the hull was madly destroyed by the sharp teeth like a hill. A large number of shipborne magic towers were destroyed, and the abyss was almost broken in half. The little fat dragon and the mermaid who were inside bumped into each other in the cabin, and their pants were almost thrown off, and their heads were buzzing. See, Rose was stunned. The abyss was much more fragile than she thought. The chosen one who controls this warship is not a navy type, or the level is not high. It's a powerful warship, but it's hard to exert its power. Then sink it. Renishaw squatted, jumped up suddenly, and rushed towards Tide Village like a cannonball. At the same time, the 4 chosen ones of the Shadow Cult, and the remaining 5 deacons followed closely behind. See, Rose led 3 navy chosen ones, and rushed towards the abyss under the dense firepower of the ships. Not good, let the abyss retreat. Field's scalp tingled, and he immediately ordered, "Go ashore directly, we can't stay underwater." The abyss has an advantage, that is, it can climb ashore, and it can sail on dry land. The artillery will switch to shotgun shells, and retreat immediately after firing a round. Little Sun, Rosaria will deal with the enemies on the shore, and Ashina, Silver Dragon, and Black Feather will assist the warship in retreating. As soon as the Shadow Cult's high-level officials such as Renishaw landed, they saw countless fine marbles, covering them like a rainstorm. What is this, a sling? Crackle. All the Shadow Cult God chosen were covered by shotgun shells. The divine shields of all people were like a rainstorm falling into a pool. Ripples continuously appeared, and the divine power was more or less weakened. Then, arrows were shot from all directions. It's much more powerful than slingshot. Renishaw frowned and ordered her subordinates, those who can get their hands free, destroy the enemy's slingshot device. A quick battle, the 3rd level god chosen mainly covers the army. Delilah goes to clean up the enemy army, and the rest of the 4th level god chosen follow me to kill the enemy god chosen. Even if the output of the small fish is very low, but a little bit adds up to a lot. Facing the more than 1,000 defenders on the shore, Renishaw is also very troubled, and the arrows are constantly consuming her divine power. But it is not worth it to use divine skills to bombard them, and it is embarrassing to encounter the embarrassment of close-range artillery shooting mosquitoes. You dare to attack my home, I am so angry. Rosaria, hiding in a black robe, swung her sword angrily, swinging the gluttony great sword with great force. Haha, Field has indeed reached a secret agreement with the corrupted creatures. When Rina Shah saw Rosaria, she immediately recognized her as a disaster, and sneered, "With the style of my shadow cult, you must be thinking about hegemony. Field, I'm beginning to be curious about your secrets." As an old rival who has fought Field many times, Rina Shah knows that Field has many secrets. For example, the Scroll of Destruction, cooperation with corruption, and resurrection from the dead. No matter which one, it attracts Renash's attention like a dessert. If it weren't for the bad condition, forcing her to race against time, she would have killed him long ago. "Beauty, can you retreat?" Field ignored the ugly and twisted face of the other party, hid in the back, and shouted with fighting spirit, "Or let's stop fighting, I will join the shadow cult now. Then we will love each other as a family, and we will all be brothers." After saying that, he elbowed the soldier who put down the crossbow next to him. "Hurry up and output." Field looked funny. "How can you really surrender after fighting like this?" Oh! The honest soldier immediately drew his bow and arrow. "Okay, you hand in the army now, and I will send you to conquer the Viscount's territory and kill all the rotten corpses." Renash's ugly corpse face was stiffly pulled into an ugly smile, but her movements were not slow. With a flick of her hand, the scarlet liquid turned into a scarlet staff. Chanting quickly, Rina Shah raised her hand and used the 5th level magic skill, sighing blood rain. Chapter 762. Go to hell. Philomena glanced at everyone with her beautiful eyes. Even if there were only 2 people in the battle, she was not afraid. Her snow-white toes touched the ground, and the magic ring behind her bloomed, and the sky was directly dyed into a gorgeous golden color. The continuous golden light fell like raindrops, instantly covering everyone in the Shadow sect. The violent divine skills directly hit 2 deacons hard. Their faces changed drastically, and they directly dissociated the divine weapons and retreated. The other deacons were almost scared to pee, and they retreated to avoid the sharp edge. Such a terrifying divine power quality, try mine too. Rina Shah narrowed her eyes slightly, and the Bloody Rain divine skill in her hand had already been charged. The divine skill was Bloody Rain, but it was completely different when it was thrown out. A large amount of blood arrows flew out like a violent storm, as if a bloody rain was falling horizontally. 100 miles in radius was actually within the attack range. As the bloody rain came, the space behind Rosaria was torn apart, and a corrupted dragon with a body as big as a mountain descended from it, with its wings spread out, spanning the sky and the earth. Roar. The corrupt dragon roared, its gray eyes were emotionless, and it ran headfirst into the blood rain. Puff, puff. The blood rain silently sank into the corrupt body, but immediately burst into strange fluctuations. Immediately, the large mass of flesh and bones of the corrupt dragon began to melt. A lot of blood rain passed through the blockade of the corrupt dragon and fell into the position behind it. The black and red smoke immediately rose when it fell on the stone, and the soldiers, who were unfortunately hit, were directly melted. It's very corrosive, but the penetration is not strong. Everyone, lower your head and take cover. Field hurriedly called the soldiers to dodge. Even so, the blood rain just now easily killed many soldiers in seconds. The low wall that was built with great effort was also melted and riddled with holes, and this was still the case with Rosaria blocking it. As expected of a 5th level God's Chosen. Field took a breath of cold air. This guy is definitely the leader of the Shadow Cult. Soldiers retreat to Tide Village, and leave the battlefield here to the God's Chosen. It hurts. The enemy is a magician God's Chosen. After Rosaria and the others were attacked, Rosaria, who bore most of the damage, acted like nothing happened. On the contrary, the affected Philoumeni retreated repeatedly, blasting out a large cross star to protect herself. Huh? Then why don't you hide behind the corrupted dragon and provide me with firepower support? No way. Philoumeni raised her head proudly. Then I deal with the 5th level one, and you clean up the small fish. Rosaria was happy, holding the gluttony great sword, charging aggressively. 4th level magic skill, Endless Slash. The corrupted dragon behind him, like a tyrant, was not scrapped because of the festering flesh and blood, and also raised his hand to slash out Endless Slash. The Endless Cross slashed across several miles, slashing at the Shadow Cult members layer by layer, but they were dodged by various techniques. Your magic resistance is not very high, right? The leader Rina Shah turned around, leaving several graceful afterimages in the air, and the next moment she appeared in front of Philoumeni. Renash's corpse ghost face was full of hideousness, and the moment her dry eyes stared at Philoumeni, the staff in her hand burst into thousands of rays of light. Countless energy whips, black and dense, lashed at Philomenae crazily, directly blasting her away. Without giving Philomena a chance to fight back, Renisha relied on her calm mind and rich experience to beat Philomena violently. Philomena was blown away again. Renisha sneered and raised her magic staff. "You are afraid of magic, don't worry, I will act quickly." "Haha, it's enough to deal with you." With her beautiful long hair flying, Philomena quickly adjusted her body shape and blasted away, with a primordial annihilation while flying backwards. Feeling the approach of pure destructive power, even Renisha, who had died once, felt her heart suddenly tighten. She sensed the danger, the threat that could completely crush her to dust. In order to revive this corpse, she spent a lot of energy and killed countless people. She also needed strong men to maintain her body every day. If this body was broken, she would not look for a god's body, and would continue to accumulate strength. She had waited too long, and of course she would not allow such a mistake to happen. Her figure retreated violently, and the original annihilation brushed past Renash's ears. A trace of fear flashed in Renash's eyes, but she hid it very well. "Ha ha ha, your physical damage. Or maybe divine damage, you're all scared, right?" Philomena wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, smiled cunningly like a fox, raised her chin, showing her perfect and graceful figure, her snow-white skin, which looked even whiter on the dark battlefield. "There's something wrong with your body, it's ugly to the naked eye." Philomena, who seems to be brainless, is very cunning and careful in battle. "You talk too much nonsense, bitch." Renisha took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. "You are so ugly, no one likes you. No wonder my lord doesn't even look at you, even though you are a 5th level chosen one." Philomena stuck out her tongue and stretched out her long white legs provocatively, like a finely carved work of art. "Do you have a man you like? I'm going to peel off your skin and let you taste the baptism." Jealousy makes people twisted. Renisha was furious and frantically mobilized her divine power, rushing forward at the same time. Such a straightforward attack was completely different from Renash's previous perfect movement, and Philomena immediately seized the opportunity. Level 4 Divine Skill, Annihilation Aurora. The magic ring behind him continued to bloom, and the terrifying divine skill instantly absorbed the surrounding divine power. Even the surrounding light was distorted. Philomena launched a stunning attack, covering Renisha. He madly bloomed divine power, and tried to use divine skills to fight against Philomena. One was level 5, and the other was Destruction Disaster. The two people's divine skills clashed, and it was difficult to tell who was the winner. Rosaria faced 4 generals of the Shadow Cult, each of whom was level 4, and she was in a tough battle. There are very few fakes among the 4th level God Chosen. Most of the 4th level God Chosen, who can guard the leader, have powerful skills. If Rosaria's vitality was not very strong, the normal God Chosen would have disintegrated and fled. On the other side, the Abyss was seriously damaged, and was chased and bombarded by Sea Rose and enemy ships. Without the Navy God Chosen, fighting at sea is too disadvantageous. In addition, Xiao Feilong is not a combat God Chosen. As long as Sea Rose dodges the long-range attacks of Ashina and others, she can easily attack the warship. "Dare to attack my Rose pirates, I want you to pay the price." Seeing the Abyss approaching the coast, Sea Rose laughed. "Where can you run to? Can you get ashore?" However, the next moment, under the confused eyes of everyone, the Abyss actually grew spider-like claws from the cabin. It staggered to the shore, and the speed was quite fast. "What the hell?" Sea Rose was shocked. "No, you really will go ashore. Chase it, don't let it get away." Gritting her teeth, Sea Rose decided to chase it ashore. Chapter 763. The moment Sea Rose stepped onto the land, the surrounding temperature dropped sharply, and the splashing water quickly condensed into ice beads. Looking around, Sea Rose immediately sensed that her connection with the ocean was rapidly weakening, and her divine shield became fragile. Even so, Sea Rose was not afraid. She had been roaming the sea for decades, so how could she be scared away by such momentum? Come on, your opponent is me." A beautiful figure fell, blocking the enemy's inevitable path. Facing the 4 enemy gods, Ashina's divine power was no longer conserved, and the frost storm swept around with her exquisite figure as the center. "It's strange, the primitive dares to block my way. A 4th level God's Chosen, really looking for death." Sea Rose disdainfully raised her hand, and a series of strange rune cards flew in her hand. The rest of the Navy God's Chosen didn't take Asina seriously. After all, they had a big advantage in both quantity and quality. We know after the fight. Ashina's scarlet eyes were filled with cold murderous intent, and snowflakes fluttered around her. After saying that, the dragon wolf stepped on the ground with its front foot, and its speed instantly reached its peak. Asina was like a cannonball, crashing straight into the crowd of Navy people. With the blessing of 2 top-level passive skills, Armor-Breaking Frost and God-Killing Unparalleled, Ashina's casual attack can burst out with power comparable to divine skills. Not to mention that she used all her strength right from the start. 6 ice spears left gorgeous traces in the air, and quickly merged into the ice spear in Ashina's hand, forming a giant prismatic battering ram. During the charge, the dragon wolf roared out a large piece of tyrant dragon flame. The man and the wolf seemed like a speeding ice and flame train, which was extremely spectacular. This doesn't look like the momentum of a 4th-level God's Chosen. See, Rose was shocked, and she didn't even have time to say a word to remind everyone to be careful. Asina whizzed past her, and a beam of white frost-like spear light flew across the sky, and the spear body made a high-pitched sound. Puff! Accompanied by the harsh air explosion, a Navy God Chosen, who had just stepped onto the shore, was shot dead without any hindrance, and blood splattered for a while. Goddess? Everyone only felt a flash in front of their eyes, and vaguely saw the majestic shadow of the ice dragon. Their companions were killed instantly. If it weren't for the genuine aura of Ashina's 4th level, they would have suspected that she was a fake. What's more terrifying is that while Ashina killed one person in an instant, she took away the opponent's artifact with ease, and even muttered terribly, "I thought you were so powerful, but it turns out that you are just a bunch of small fish when you leave the sea." The Navy God Chosen looked at each other, furious. "You don't know how to live or die." See, Rose was furious, and the runes in her hand flew out, turning into a large number of drowned people in the air, terrifying and hideous. This is the special ability of her artifact, which can absorb the souls of the drowned. These souls carry deep malice. Once attacked by them, the enemy will also experience the pain of drowning. Ashina was not panicked at all, and the ice spear in her hand danced like a silver snake. The mixed icy airflow crisscrossed back and forth, easily strangling all the drowning souls. Seeing this, a Navy God Chosen person next to her immediately went around to Ashina's right side and tried to sneak attack. Ashina flicked her left hand, and the long-charged killing spear was ejected. The originally needle-sized killing spear was rapidly enlarged. Boom! The attacker vomited a large mouthful of dirty blood and flew backwards. Without giving her a chance to detach the artifact and escape, "Hey, you rushed over and killed her with a sword. Despicable venomous snake, you only know how to sneak attack." Haimegue almost vomited blood. In a short period of time, the family assets she had accumulated shrunk by 1/3. "You are just a 2nd-level person, and you dare to mess with me. Are you here to make fun of me?" Haimegue sensed Heiyu's strength and laughed angrily. Under normal circumstances, the 2nd-level God Chosen is only worthy of sleeping at home. She immediately threw out the rune in her hand, and the flying rune instantly turned into 1,000 drowning souls, howling and rushing towards Heiyu. "I provoke you, I provoke you." Heiyu was not convinced, and threw out the raven feather sword in his hand. The divine power gathered and immediately split into two into 4, and in a blink of an eye it became hundreds of identical artifacts. These copied artifacts were not phantoms or weakened versions, and each raven feather sword was at the normal artifact level. The wind-breaking sword swept through, and the raven feather sword cut through the drowning soul like tofu, and as long as it pierced into the soul of the drowning person, it would immediately cause him to burst into a heart-wrenching scream. The only remaining 4th-level Navy God Chosen wanted to help. Heiyu was doing 2 things at once, resisting the attack of Sea Rose. He casually pulled a crow feather sword, his clothes fluttering, and with a thought, the crow feather sword turned into a dark afterimage and flew out. 2nd-level divine skill, black crow burying the sky. The scarlet light was like a firefly, leaving a gorgeous arc in the air, so fast that Sea Rose didn't react. The crow feather sword that appeared in an instant directly penetrated the Navy God Chosen, who was trying to support, followed by a large-scale explosion. Wow! The Chosen One was horrified. She didn't expect that a 2nd-level trash could have the ability to severely injure her. Caught off guard, she vomited blood and flew backwards, trying to dissociate the artifact to allow it to escape. More than 10 flying swords and 6 ice spears flew around her, circling around her and killing her. In just 3 breaths, the sole army summoned by Sea Rose was wiped out. The 4th-level Navy Chosen One was stabbed with holes, and died unwillingly in pain and shock. The gentle sea breeze blew, but Sea Rose felt like a sharp knife scratching her skin. It hurt too much. Her trusted general couldn't even hold on for half an hour, and was mercilessly killed by 2 low-level gods chosen, without even a complete body left. If she told others, I'm afraid no one would believe it. What's more terrifying is that Yu had an intoxicated look in his eyes, and he licked the corners of his warm mouth with an unsatisfied look. Rose felt a chill down her spine. Who was the invader? I curse your graves. Not daring to continue the fight, Rose threw out more than 1,000 souls, and then retreated back to the sea. Ashina tried to freeze the sea surface to chase, but was attacked by missiles and arrows from the fleet that arrived, which consumed a lot of her divine power, so she had no choice but to retreat. You and I will go to support the adults, and the rest of us will guard against the enemy navy. Seeing that the abyss had already run far away, Xiao Feilong also came with the corpse. Ashina did not take Rose seriously, and after collecting the navy's artifacts, she decisively went to support the main battlefield with Yu. Boom boom! The battle on the main battlefield was fierce, with all kinds of magical skills being thrown around, and the sky was full of colorful lights left by the magical skills. The top leaders of the shadow cult were no pushovers, and the 4 warriors worked in perfect harmony. The leader, Rina Shah, was even more powerful. But Rina Shah was shocked to find that as time went by, she was completely at a disadvantage. The magnificent woman in front of her seemed to have endless divine power, but her own divine power was running low. Not good. Rina Shah narrowed her eyes slightly. Field's military strength is far beyond my imagination. Chapter 764. The 4th-rank god chosen of their own family could not defeat the corrupted disaster. Rosaria fought 4 people alone, and was not at a disadvantage. The 2 sides fought fiercely. The dock under construction was blown to pieces, and the cement road that was built with great difficulty was blown away. Field was almost crying with heartache. The most dominant army of the shadow cult was restricted by the terrain, and could not land. The landing that was organized with great difficulty was immediately driven into the sea by the night army on the shore. It was difficult for large ships to approach the coast, and the transport ships would be bombarded by artillery, which was very difficult to deal with. No, we lose if we continue like this. Without a qualified body, you can't even exert 1/10 of your 5th level divine power. Although she didn't want to admit it, Rina Shah had a lot of combat experience, and was keenly aware of the changes in the battle situation. She waved her hand and issued an order, retreat immediately. Master, Rose has come to support us. We can still fight. Delilah, one of the 4 great knights of the shadow cult, and Rosaria were really angry and refused to give up. She blasted out her divine skills again, and scarlet spear beams roared out like a volcanic eruption, shaking the earth. Rosaria responded with endless slash, a chaotic wave of sword energy, and all the debris and rocks along the way were crushed into powder. The 2 divine skills collided with a buzzing sound, and burst out layers of divine power aftermath, stirring up waves on the distant sea. In the end, Endless Slash was more powerful, and it crushed Delilah's divine skills domineeringly. With excellent body movements to avoid Endless Slash, Delilah rushed forward and used the artifact heavy gun in her hand to engage in hand-to-hand combat with Rosaria. Has Rose taken down the enemy fleet? Why didn't she attack from the flank? Something's wrong. Rina Shah frowned slightly, without turning her head to observe. She only saw that the night army was not panicking, and she knew that Rose came here to support after retreating. It's not a big problem for her to come to support, but the enemy god chosen, who can defeat her, will also come to support. On the contrary, it will tilt the balance of victory to the opponent. After throwing out her magic skill to sweep away Philyuomini, Rina Shah quickly glanced at the distance. Seeing Ashina rushing over with Black Feather, and Xiao Feilong leading a large number of corrupted troops in the distance, Rina Shah snorted coldly. Sure enough, stupid trash. What the hell is this? Don't be distracted, the 4th level divine skill, the original annihilation. Seizing the opportunity, the space behind Philyuomini was torn apart, and a straight black line shot out. The terrifying beam of light contained a strong will of destruction. Just feeling the aftermath made people's blood boil. Rina Shah turned her head to dodge, but found that she dodged in vain. Philyuomini was not attacking her at all. The divine skill directly sniped and killed an unsuspecting knight of the church. Without a 4th level divine choice, Rosaria immediately took a big advantage and beat the remaining 3 people. What? Renash's heart skipped a beat, and she was furious. Well, you dared to kill my men and provoke me. It's not just for provocation. Philyuomini smiled, and her aura began to surge. She had killed countless people of the same level, and her essence had accumulated enough, and she only needed the final push. The golden light rushed up to the sky, like a golden waterfall hanging upside down, illuminating the whole world with a golden color, and everyone around could hardly open their eyes. What was even more terrifying was the destructive power contained in the golden light. Everyone was terrified. If we let any of the scum of the shadow cult escape, there would be endless troubles. We must not let even one of you escape this time. Field was bathed in the vast golden light, forcing his eyes to squint and feel the glory. It was not difficult for the Night Lord to defeat the shadow cult. After all, the army was strong and the port city was defended, so they were almost invincible. The difficulty was how to cause the maximum casualties. If they gathered together at the beginning, it would be easy to kill 2 or 3 of the scum and scare the shadow cult leader to retreat. In order to ensure the best results, Field even specifically told Rosaria and others to maintain a stalemate and consume resources, and never to explode casually. Once the top leaders of the shadow cult escape, he will have endless troubles. But now it is different. The shadow cult has consumed a lot of divine power, and has gone deep alone. Ashina and others have gained something, and they have successfully surrounded the enemy. In addition, Philuamani has broken through the 5th level. Field has tried his best to gather all the elements of victory in order to maximize the results. 5. 5th level divine power? This aura is from the 5th order gods chosen. The shadow cult was stunned. Rina Shah was very familiar with the 5th order god's power. She was stuck at this level. But at this moment, Rina Shah felt the 5th order god's power, and she just felt panic. She didn't know whether the 5th order god's power was strong or not. Breakthrough on the battlefield? It's too coincidental. See, Rosa's scalp tingled. The advancement of the gods chosen required the support of a prosperous territory. Logically speaking, the war destroyed part of Tide Village, and the prosperity should only decline. There was no reason for the enemy's gods chosen to break through. Without any hesitation, See, Rose stopped in a hurry, stepped on the sea water and shouted, "Master, the situation is not good, retreat quickly." "Haha, now you want to run away, you were so arrogant when you invaded my territory." Field laughed and pointed at Rina Shah and shouted, "You are the master of Shadow Cult, today, I will make you fly." The golden light exploded, and the sky seemed to be raining golden rain. Philomenae flew out from the golden light, her hair was soft in the wind, her snow-white skin was shining with jade, and with the gorgeous magic ring and golden skirt, she looked like a sun bird. "Retreat quickly." Renesa pulled back, but was blocked by Rosaria and the corrupted dragon. The remaining 3 knights also wanted to retreat, but were attacked by Heiyu and Ashina and were injured. "It feels good, much stronger than my previous life, let me try on you." Philomena was very satisfied, her beautiful eyes looked around, and she saw the 3 knights fighting with Ashina. She waved her sleeves lazily, and a golden streak was thrown out. Delilah and the other 3 knights were killed instantly, and burned to ashes in the blazing golden flames. "Fuck, this is awesome." Field was stunned. He killed 3 level 4 warriors in 1 second without even using his magic skills. Is it really that exaggerated? Although they were mostly consumed by Rosaria and injured, the one-hit kill was a bit scary. "Are you kidding me?" Rina Shah was not a fool. She murmured, "I think I know where the missing scroll of destruction went." Thinking of Damii and others handing over the chosen one of destruction to the enemy, Rina Shah wanted to strangle all these useless subordinates to death. After being promoted to level 5, Philomena's attributes exploded and gained new points. 1. New magic skills. 2. New features. 3. Qualitative change of original skills. 4. Eliminate negative status. Cannot eliminate soul backlash. His still can't eliminate backlash. Field was helpless. Choose a magic skill. Chapter 765. After selecting the divine skill, a soul link communicated between the two, and Philomena's momentum rose again, while Field obtained information about the new divine skill. New divine skill. Star Matrix. Status enhancement type. Rule level. Description. Completely release the power of disaster. Compress the destructive divine power to the extreme, and in the short term, it will provide Philomenae with combat power comparable to the 6th level. Effect. After activating this divine skill, the divine power will undergo a significant qualitative change, strengthening all skills, talents and ordinary attacks. The divine shield gains an overload effect, absorbing double damage for a short period of time. Duration. 30 minutes, requires 24 hours of cooling. At the same time, the panel of Philomena is updated. Negative status, reduced weak magic resistance. Magic resistance changed from 20% to 30% magic immunity. Negative status, reduced soul fragility. Combat skills are greatly restored. Soul resistance is improved. Negative status, worse rule resistance. World rejection continues to worsen. The backlash caused by killing will cause longer and more serious damage. And it will take longer to recover from the dissociation state, invincible. Field stood with his hands on his hips. With the original combat power of Philoamini, she could probably fight against the 6th level, and now she has the amplification skill. If the chosen gods of the Empire knew, they would be furious. It's just, the backlash is serious again. It's really not a good sign. This can be seen just by looking at Philoamini's expression. After she killed the Knight of the Shadow Church, her eyelashes couldn't help but tremble slightly, and the backlash made her extremely painful. Damn it, it seems that there is no way to fight. Sensing the terrifying combat power of the Night Lord, Renashaw immediately withdrew and retreated violently. Is it too late to run now? Field made an international friendly gesture. How dare you mess with me? Come on, kill her! Philomena raised her hand, and countless skybird soul fire flew out. The other gods chosen used their magic skills from different directions, and all kinds of gorgeous attacks blocked all of Renash's escape routes. Am I going to die here? The incident happened suddenly, and Renashaw was also desperate. It's clear that becoming a 6th level is right in front of me. She didn't expect that she could travel across the Griffin Empire, and even run to other continents to slaughter at will, but she was defeated by a small baron. What's even more abominable is that she provoked them herself. If she had known that night territory was so dangerous, she would never have come. Even if she managed to escape, she would be seriously injured and the whole plan would be ruined. This is fate. Renashaw smiled bitterly, and looked at the pair of divine skills flying over helplessly. 3 figures in white robes actually flashed over. They attacked at the same time, and a strong holy light aura burst out, forming a solid holy light barrier. The attack of her own disaster was mostly wiped out by the powerful holy light just by approaching. Holy light has a strong control over disaster. After an explosion in the sky, the 3 chosen gods of holy light perfectly blocked all attacks. People from the church. Renashaw herself was stunned. At first, she was ecstatic that she had survived a desperate situation, but soon, her face changed. Feld, you dare to cooperate with disaster and harm people and lives. These words were like a bomb, echoing throughout the battlefield, and countless soldiers were surprised. Fuck you. Feld, who was waiting to pick up the artifact, jumped up in anger. Sure enough, the Holy Light Church is behind the Shadow Church. If these 2 guys could come to support in time, they would have been in the fleet for a long time. A holy light chosen holding a book floated out leisurely. Although hidden under the robe, the sharp light in his eyes seemed to be able to penetrate people's hearts. She asked majestically, Field, do you know that cooperating with the disaster will kill many people? Stop talking nonsense. Field was unhappy. The Shadow Cult killed fewer people, but how many cities were massacred, and how many innocent people died tragically? It's all your fault. Anyone can question me, but you are not worthy. We will settle the sins of the Shadow Church. Field, your sins will also be settled. Jumping directly onto the roof, Field angrily said in front of the surrounding soldiers, Settle? I am settling her. Field, you have no right to settle her. Only the Holy Light and the goddess have this right. Sister Bourgeois folded her hands in a prayer gesture and said devoutly, And the only executor of the will of the goddess and the Holy Light is the church. You are a sinner and a traitor. You have no right to judge. Field sneered. Wrong. Only those who have been harmed by the Shadow Church have the right to judge, and your church is not allowed to do so either. Who stipulated this? Bourgeois asked back with his head tilted. Under my wings, in the Dawn territory, I and my subjects have the right to judge. If you don't accept it, I will beat you until you accept it. Bourgeois sneered. Your subjects already know that you are cooperating with the disaster, you might as well ask them. In Bourgeois, it seems that even a Hakimi, in front of the pure holy light, he will definitely choose himself instead of Field. Bullshit, brothers, don't listen to that pickled pig. Surprisingly, before Field opened his mouth, a soldier jumped up anxiously. I don't know if there are monsters here. I have lived in Night County for a year. That's right, we can't eat bread, we can't even sleep on the streets, and we are slaughtered by the crazy people of Shadow Church. Where is your church? Busy collecting taxes. A survivor from Feng Yu territory was furious. Now we are living a good life. You say we have something to do with the disaster. I am jealous. Just invaders, we have to defend our homeland. The human soldiers' fighting spirit was ignited, and their morale was greatly boosted. The subhuman soldiers also ignored Bourgeois. The nun said coolly, I don't understand. I believe in the goddess of winter. What holy light, love whoever. Field breathed a sigh of relief, wiped the cold sweat, and said to himself, Fortunately, the people's eyes are sharp, and their claimed positions have not been lost. Oh my god, These people have been brainwashed by the disaster and must be purified. They can no longer distinguish right from wrong. Field, you are so despicable. Bourgeois. Completely forgetting what he said before, he covered his mouth in surprise. You must die. Yes, if Field just cooperated with the disaster, he could be forgiven as long as he handed over all his money to wash away his sins. Another holy light chosen said seriously. But he slandered the holy light and deceived so many people, he must be killed. Okay, let's play it this way, right? You're right no matter what. Let's see who wins on the battlefield. Field was too lazy to talk nonsense. His eyes narrowed slightly. Fortunately, I have a trick up my sleeve. As early as a year ago, Field suspected that the shadow cult was a pawn of the church. So during the battle, he did not let Black Feather merge with other disasters, but teamed up with Ashina. The combination of Ashina and Black Feather will not be restrained by the holy light, and is an extremely reliable fighting force. Chapter 766. Another big fight is about to start. Bourgeois, glancing at the shadow cult leader behind him, he saw that she had a cold face, but was retreating. Okay, our goal is not to kill Field, so there is no need to make things complicated. Bourgeois raised his hand, signaling the other nuns to retreat. If a fight breaks out here, it is likely that both sides will suffer losses, and not only will they not gain any benefits, but they will also let Renisha escape. Field, you will eventually be judged for your crimes against innocent people. Go to hell. The Lamini threw out a continuous stream of stars. The nuns did not hesitate, and the three of them disappeared with Renisha in the white holy light. The speed was so fast that it was several times faster than when they came, and it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Seeing the gods' chosen retreat, the ships that wanted to approach immediately turned around and left. How I thought they would fight. The space was torn, and Margaret, the gods chosen, jumped out. Ashina thought the enemy was attacking by surprise, and almost hit him with the ice spear in her hand. Fortunately, she saw that the enemy was familiar, and hesitated for a moment, but was stopped by Field. Margaret, when did you come back? Field's face was not looking good. The departure of the people from the Holy Light Church was not a good thing. Why do you look like you don't welcome me? I've been following the people from the church. Holding her hands in front of her chest, she only managed to squeeze out a very subtle rabbit hole. Her figure was slim and not spectacular. Margaret raised her eyebrows. Her long and smooth hair was scattered. You don't look very happy. Yes, it will take 1 or 2 months to rebuild the Tide Village Pier. Field sighed. The worst thing is that the church will find out that there is a disaster in the territory, and they will probably send a large army here. Little fool. Margaret chuckled and leaned on the rocks beside her. Do you think they didn't find out before? The corrupt land in the north has been there for 10 years, and the church has not cleaned it up. What, you are a succubus? The church has to make trouble for you. In fact, the church has sent people to the night territory many times for experiments, inspections, etc., but Field didn't know. This makes sense. After a moment's silence, Field took a breath. But why? Why don't they kill me? Under normal circumstances, at least a level 6 should be sent to bomb. This is a secret. There are many reasons. Think about it yourself. Margaret blinked twice. Could it be that there is a traitor in the church, the chosen chaos god, helping to cover up? Field was sweating profusely. Rolling her eyes coquettishly, Margaret did not comment, as if admitting it. Let's get back to business. The reason I'm here is to track down the body of God. Margaret immediately became serious and crossed her legs. Both the shadow cult and the church are looking for the body of God. Why is it that thing again? Field scratched his head. This thing is a succubus, and everyone is scrambling for it. If the shadow cult is looking for it, I understand that their leader has become a corpse ghost. The Lamini fell, like a banished fairy. It is much weaker than the ordinary 5th-level gods chosen, but it has rich combat experience. She needs a new body to carry her power. Margaret nodded. The god's body is a biological weapon created by the underground elves to kill gods. I don't know how it was made, but its combat power is definitely beyond your and my imagination. No one has ever seen the goddess in person. I am also curious about what killing gods means. In addition, the appearance of the god's body attracted a certain existence. It is rumored that it is the goddess in person. It killed all the underground elves overnight. This is the key to my exploration. Because the previous generations of disasters, even if they failed to destroy the world, occupied most of the area and destroyed almost all living things. But a large number of disasters and disaster creations disappeared without a trace, with only a small number of survivors. Margaret narrowed her eyes slightly. I even suspect the disasters were killed by that existence. Margaret spoke word by word and said the shocking news, and that existence seems to be able to modify the memory of everyone, including us disasters. I forgot everything after the World Destruction War, and my strength has been greatly weakened. Ah? Field was shocked. You mean the one who killed the underground elves and solved the disaster are the same thing? Yes, and if we find the body of God, we can get clues. Maybe it's the goddess. Heiyu's eyes were full of stars. I really want to see the goddess in person. Nerve. Margaret laughed angrily. I will kill you first. According to the existing information, that existence is more related to the church. If it's a goddess, then it must be the goddess of holy light, the kind who eats 3 chosen gods of disaster in one meal. Heiyu hid behind Field in fear. Then, let's not meet. No wonder the church came here, probably want to find the goddess herself. Field understood, rubbing his chin, but is there really a goddess? I don't think it's likely. Everyone fell into deep thought. Why are all the chosen gods of disaster in a meeting? Ashina took 2 steps back awkwardly. It was so strange for a normal person like her to be mixed with terrorists and discuss how to destroy the world. Seeing that no god chose to pay attention to her, she rubbed her chin and pretended to think. Fortunately, Field patted her head. It's really strange. Our territory has become a disaster team building department inexplicably. Field wiped the cold sweat. I just want to grow some crops. Why is it so difficult? Ahem, don't think about it. Let's talk about these topics when we get back, and deal with the battlefield first. Seeing that the Shadow Cult fleet had left, only the damaged transport ship was left on the sea. Field ordered, tow the transport ship back. Oh, and tow the sunken small warship back to me. The rest of the soldiers clean up the battlefield, and speed up the treatment of the wounded. You guys go ahead. Margaret disappeared. I follow the enemy fleet. I think they won't leave, but will land in the Viscount territory. After finishing everything, they returned to the Blue Water Village in the Morning Curtain territory, where the Combat Command Center was set up. After settling the wounded, everyone had dinner. Ashina found Field. My lord, what should we do about the enemy exposing the disaster this time? I take care of this. By the way, call back the little angel and the little fox. Field, as I expected, the Shadow Church fleet has landed in the Viscount's territory. Margaret appeared in the tent like a ghost. The Shadow Church, the Holy Light Church, is building a base on the coast of the Viscount's territory. The corrupt army of the Viscount's territory has been alarmed and is blocking them. Haha, good, the Viscount's territory is going to be a mess now. Field smelled the opportunity and was overjoyed, punching down. Realizing that he didn't hit the table, he had to pull Heiyu over and punch her head lightly. Chapter 767. Field, just use my portal and attack the church directly. Margaret pursed her lips and offered her opinion. We will succeed if we attack the enemy together with the corrupted disaster. No! Ashina and Rosaria were shocked and objected at the same time. It's not good to say this, but as a disaster, I know what the disaster thinks. With her arms folded in front of her chest, Rosaria did not hide her doubts. Unless you join the Night Territory, I will not let everyone go deep into the enemy's territory alone with you. Especially, a certain Shaokuan covets my foot slave. If you teleport everyone into the zombie tide, we will all be doomed. That's right. Besides, it's difficult to make full use of our engineering, cavalry, and artillery advantages if we go deep alone. Teleporting is too dangerous, especially when the opponent has a large number of high-level god chosen. Once we are defeated, we have no way out. Ashina rarely agrees with Rosaria. The two of them analyzed it very well, which is also what Field is worried about. It seems that the disaster is helping him, but it is just an illusion. They have their own plans. If I lose my way and really join the Calamity Camp, I and everyone in Nightfall will be doomed. Margaret nodded slightly. That's right, the corrupted Calamity might kill me too, so it's too risky to teleport you. I believe in Miss Margaret's character. Field gave a way out first, and then made a plan. The attention of the corrupted army will be attracted by the Shadow Church. We will enter from Morningfall, adopt the fortress tactics, and continuously build strongholds and small fortresses. While retaking the Viscount territory, we will move closer to the Shadow Church. One of the great advantages of Nightfall is its developed construction industry. This time, Field intends to fight against the corruption disaster and the Shadow Church at the same time and take back the Viscount territory. I agree. No one disagrees. After agreeing on the Northern Expedition plan, the next thing to do is to mobilize the army and prepare supplies. The territory opened 3 granaries, and the factory began to work overtime to produce armor, arrows and gunpowder, and a steady stream of supplies were transported to the front line of Morningfall territory. Relying on the perfect road facilities, the speed of material assembly was very fast. On the third day, most of the supplies and troops were assembled. My lord, this is shocking. The former Imperial Army's chosen ones, the Lancer and Night Wind, were stunned by the efficiency of Night's operation. In the past, it would probably take a week just to get a small team together. Keep a low profile. Field stood with his hands on his hips. This time, the baggage transportation and guarding the stronghold will be left to you. Don't worry. My lord, some bad news. Margaret sneaked away by herself. Ashina rushed over. I thought she would provide us with support. Field thought for a moment. She is from the Disaster faction. Probably went to help Pure White. It doesn't matter, we just need to do our own thing. Damn it, Disaster is so bad, a fence-sitter. Rosaria's chest rose and fell violently, and she almost overturned the table. Fortunately, she marked the location of the Shadow Cult for us. Ashina handed over the marked map. Report to the master, I'm here. The little fox held 2 small iron balls in her arms. This is... Field said and felt that the iron ball looked familiar. This is a new type of ammunition I developed called chain bullet? Field blurted out. Well, you can call it that. The little fox swallowed the name Little Fox Bullet awkwardly. She had to admit that the name chain bullet was indeed appropriate. This kind of shell is made of 2 iron balls connected in series by a chain. What's the use of this? Everyone was puzzled. After the artillery fires the chain bullet, it will rotate in the air, increasing the impact surface. It is particularly effective against masts and canvas. I heard that you were fighting a naval battle, so I made this on purpose. But the naval battle is over. Ashina covered her face in despair. It's okay, I need it in the future, you did a good job. Field gave a thumbs up and praised the little fox. Chain bullets are not only useful for ships, but also for large targets such as flying monsters and siege towers. Get ready to go. Field was full of energy. After changing into a mighty fighting armor, he walked out of the tent holding the Night Lord's flag. Outside the tent, there were 3 artillery units, about 1,000 Snow Lion Knights, 3,000 old and new infantrymen of the Night Lord, 6,500 corrupted legions, the best equipment, construction workers, cooks and more than 500 logistics personnel. The other 500 grain transport teams were in charge of the Lancer. They would travel between the Night Lord and the army to provide supplies. For the first time, the number of troops reached 10,000. Although 10,000 people may seem like a light number, when you really see them, you will feel that they are like a vast ocean, with endless crowds and flags covering the sky. Even many soldiers could not help but glance at the location of the corrupted army. After Field took a quick look, he rode on his warhorse, whizzed past the army formations, and then jumped onto the high slope. The soldiers' eyes immediately focused on Field. Warriors. I know what you are worried about. You are worried that the demons will pounce on you and kill you. Field drew his sword and took a deep breath. The people of Night Territory will know the existence of the corrupted legion sooner or later, so it is better to tell them openly, and let them get used to it. Put aside your worries. I still want you to fight for me, and contribute to the construction of the territory. Each of you is an elite soldier trained by me with bread and gold coins, and each of you is the hope of Night Territory. The soldiers nodded after hearing this. If the Lord really wanted to feed them to the devil, there would be no need to give them equipment and food, and their lives would be so comfortable. These demons have been tamed by the miracle, and will fight alongside us. Their logo is very obvious, just like our flag. Recognize our enemies, the shadow cult that has slaughtered countless people, and tried to destroy our evil corruption. The North is our homeland, and we must not let disaster hang over our heads. Conquer it, otherwise, we, our children, will always live in the haze and the threat of death. Field waved his hand. Go to war. Fight for the Lord. Hearing the order to go to war, everyone's blood boiled, and they grasped their weapons tightly. They knew in their hearts that if Nightfall Territory didn't get rid of the rotten corpses would soon get rid of them. If they wanted to survive, there was only one way: fight to the death. Viscount was a very rare title, usually only given to nobles who guarded the border. Since it could guard the border, the terrain of Viscount Territory was definitely not as fertile as the fertile plains of Dawn Territory. There were continuous mountains in the north and south, and there was only a pass between Viscount Territory and Dawn Territory. Chapter 768. The most dangerous part of the Viscount Territory is the Crimson Peak, located in the south of the center of the territory. The Crimson Fortress here exists independently of Frostfire City. If the elves come here by fleet, No matter where they land, they will not escape the attack range of the Viscount territory. If the orcs want to go south, they will also be blocked by the Crimson Fortress. If we recapture the Crimson Fortress, we can gain a foothold. Before that, we need to find the Ranger Fortress. Starting from the Dawn Curtain territory, the first stop is the Ranger Fortress, followed by the Crimson Fortress, and then to Frostfire City. Spreading out the paper map, Field was still overwhelmed even after reading it countless times. This battle is of great significance. If we cannot destroy the Shadow Cult, it will come to destroy us. Similarly, the corrupted monsters will invade sooner or later. If we cannot open up a living space, we will be finished sooner or later. Field always reminds himself that even if he has the corrupted god's choice, it does not mean that he has become a disaster. Once the corpses are ready to invade, Pure White will definitely slaughter the Night territory without mercy. Perhaps some people will wonder why the Corpse Army is not allowed to clean up the Viscount territory. After all, the Corpse Army is unlimited. The Night Lord has actually been doing this, but the effect is almost zero. The enemy's Corpse Army is also infinite, and the speed of producing corpses is much faster than that of the little fat dragon. The Lord must gather all the forces to break through the corruption in one go, expel or recover the local corrupted gods, and then he can do it. We will all do our best. Everyone is eager to fight, and their expressions are serious. The army left the Morning Lord and marched south. The road out is easy to walk, and it has been cleared many times. But soon, the walls of the Morning Lord were getting farther and farther away, and completely entered the thick gray fog. The sky became increasingly dark, as if entering the deep sea. Everyone lit fog lamps and torches. The cold wind made the flames flicker. It was morning, and the sky was so dark. The gray fog in the Viscount's territory was as thick as black smoke, and the coverage of the fog lamps was compressed very small. The roars and sobs of monsters were everywhere, as if the dead were right beside everyone's ears. The atmosphere of despair began to spread inexplicably. Holy Light, please light the way for us. The little angel Tisifa walked to the middle of the army, and spread her angel wings. The light of Holy Light enveloped the human army, and everyone felt better. However, the moment the Holy Light appeared, the corpses on the ground immediately stood up. The body was rotten, the eyeballs were hanging on the face, and it was extremely disgusting. Staggering, hundreds of rotten corpses actually stood up. Goddess. A soldier who had just trained was so scared that he almost threw his weapon. What are you afraid of? There are so many of us. The old soldier next to him immediately shouted and raised his halberd, stay alert. The little fat dragon wanted to control the corrupted demon to attack, but was stopped by Field. Let them practice their skills with these small fish. Field didn't care, and opened the small map. It might be that the Shadow Cult landed, and attracted the main force of the rotten corpses. The number of rotten corpses is not large now. Recovering from the previous panic, the human army, under the command of the officers, immediately sent out 3 or 4 teams, using long halberds with swords and shields to easily kill the rotten monsters. While there are not many rotten corpses, speed up the march. We need reliable buildings to set up camp. Ignoring the 2 or 3 small fish, Field led the team to speed up the march. On the other side, a small warship of the High Elves secretly arrived at the port of the Viscount territory. Miss Aliana, Lord Fenrir, we have arrived at the territory of the Griffin Empire. The long-haired, golden-haired elf maid knocked on the door. A man and a woman, 2 perfect-looking High Elves, walked out of the room filled with potions and magical animals, came to the windowsill with a solemn face, and looked at the world in the gray fog through the warship. I can feel the pain of nature. Mother Nature is wailing miserably under the trampling of the corruption disaster. Several elves in the cabin gathered around, clasped their hands together in prayer, and even shed tears. If we knew that the northern province would be ravaged by humans, we should have sent an army to take back our homeland. Humans, pathetic inferior creatures, actually sold nature to the disaster. The elves were indignant. Okay, brothers and sisters. The male elf Fenrir took a deep breath. The stench of humans, the ocean element told me that the Shadow Cult and pirates are nearby. They must want to take away the body of God. How foolish. The underground elves who have gone astray have foolishly created monsters that betray the goddess. We High Elves, the masters of all living creatures, have the obligation to put an end to all this. I hope this trip will go smoothly, without alarming high-level corruption or attracting lowly humans. The elves easily killed the rotten corpses on the shore, and completed the landing. The Ranger Vanguard has been on the move for a long time. Why is there no news at all? Fenrir looked into the distance worriedly. Let's go. We go to the Ranger Fortress, hoping to pick up our brothers and sisters. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Field arrived at the Ranger Fortress. Looking from a distance, you can see a 3-story flat-roof building, similar in shape to a spire, with each floor narrower than the previous one. Field, that's the Ranger Fortress, a defensive facility built by the elves. Rosaria put her hands on her hips. If we occupy it, at least we have a place to defend. It looks terrible. The little fox complained. It looks like a child's tree house. Yes, the magic tree house. All the elves' buildings are tree houses. Field has read many documents. Once the elves landed in the north, they tried to attack the Scarlet Fortress and built this defense facility in the woods. But they were corrupted before they could use it. I have to say that the elves still have strategic vision, which can be used by us. The little fat dragon put his hands on his hips. Let the silver dragon and the dragon wolf lead the way, and after burning the trees that blocked the way, everyone came to the outside of the Ranger barrier. The air was filled with the smell of decay and death, which was pungent and unpleasant. But the Ranger barrier was indeed a magical building. It was rotten, but not rotten, and it was even better preserved than most stone buildings. Strangely, a strange clapping sound came from the building, slow and rhythmic. It sounds so familiar. Ashina and Rosaria looked at each other with blushing cheeks, while hey, you look curious. There have been living people in this place, and it is estimated that it will not be more than 3 days. I have never smelled a similar smell. A bit of mint, mixed with the aroma of fruit. Ashina's nose twitched slightly. It's a race I haven't seen before. I also heard a shameful sound. Opening the small map, Field immediately saw the image of the long-eared elf marked on the map. What the hell? It's been corrupted for 10 years, and there are still living people. Field was shocked and narrowed his eyes. It's just... The icon is shaking. The army is on standby outside. You two accompany me in. Chapter 769. Field pointed at Ashina and Rosaria. What about me? What about me? I want to help the Lord too. Heiyu raised his hands, jumping and hopping, as if he had not yet repaid his debt of gratitude. What are you doing? Your hair is not even fully grown. Ashina waved her hands in disdain, with a smile in her eyes. Wait outside. Rosaria also understood what was going on inside, and laughed so hard that her body shook. Don't take it lightly. Field pushed open the heavy door, and the smell of rotten heather hit him in the face, almost making Field vomit. There's a lot of corrupted slime on the ground, and I don't know what it is. There are also clothes, a style I've never seen before, like they're made of leaves. Ashina picked up a blue and green cloth belt, and casually gestured back and forth on Rosaria's body, but couldn't imagine where it was worn. This is such a big deal. This is something that only young couples would wear. Field was already sweating profusely. Drawing out the long sword at his waist, Field still maintained maximum vigilance even with the guidance of the small map. Field used his long sword to knock on the surrounding walls, trying to attract the corpses and force them to come out. Dong dong. The knocking sound echoed in the dark and deep room. Holding the shield, Field held the needle gun in his hand at an angle, ready to counterattack. After waiting for 3 minutes, no corpses appeared, just when Field was relieved. Swoosh. The white arrow shot out, attacking quickly from a very tricky angle. Don't be careless. Rosaria threw out the chain. Ding. The arrow was knocked down in one go. The chain continued to move forward like a venomous snake, hitting the attacker in the dark. The sharp tail of the chain pierced through it. Come here. With a strong pull, Rosaria dragged the attacker in front of everyone with her unmatched brute force. She was an elf woman with a broken expression and was corrupted. She was covered in mosaics and had a quiver hanging on her body. On the left chest was a piece of clothing that barely covered the weakness, which was only slightly better than a band-aid. The other missing belt was probably in Ashina's hands. The body of the corrupted elf was already stiff, but her expression and posture remained unchanged. She stood up like a crab, and it seemed that she had been tortured for a long time. She still kept her ranger instinct, and tried to shoot an arrow. Field didn't know where to look for a moment. It felt like he would get stuck wherever he looked. Hey, there are actually clothes like this. Ashina's cheeks flushed. The elves are so shameless. They should be burned to death on the fire. Shameless thing, you actually want to pollute my slaves. Rosaria's long white legs stomped heavily, and with a swing of the sword, a sword shadow rolled up in the sky, killing it. It is indeed an elf. It looks like it has only been dead for a few days. Field leaned down and stretched out his hand to check. Wow, perverted lord. Ashina was stunned. Rosaria raised her foot and kicked Field over, angrily with her hands on her waist. Field, you are a pervert at ordinary times. I won't say you, but he has no head. What else do you want to do? I just want to see the corpse spots, check the time of death, and check the species. Speechlessly pulling Rosaria away, Field used the Book of Wisdom on the elves. Race, Upper Elves, High Elves, Description, Descendants of the Sun Elves, self-proclaimed. Higher, born close to nature, with a strong learning ability for archery and magic. Possessing a long life, extremely arrogant. So it's a High Elf. Field put away the Book of Wisdom. It's really strange. What is the High Elf doing here? Could it be a survivor from 10 years ago? It's unlikely. Huh? You call a woman with only 3 small pieces of cloth on her body high class? Rosaria looked at the elf suspiciously, then raised her head proudly. One of my toes is prettier than her face. Their bows and arrows are pretty good. Ashina has seen the world, and unlike Rosaria, she didn't compete with the corpse, but picked up the bow and arrow. Strange material, this set of equipment can be given to the 3rd level Dochi archer, but its quality is much better than that of the Imperial border troops. After all, they are elves. Field was not surprised. There is nothing on the 1st floor. Let's go upstairs and take a look. Everyone came to the 2nd floor, where the entrance was blocked by a pile of debris. After clearing the debris, Field pushed open the door, and after just one look, Field was stunned. The 2 gods chosen beside him quietly retreated behind Field, their brains crashed. A large number of corrupted creatures of various shapes, orcs, monsters, and even bugs, caught more than 30 high elves and abused them crazily. Almost all the elves were in a state of big bellies, and their thin bellies showed small corruption. Just a casual glance, Field felt that he had visited the entire branch of the anime category. Outrageous. You can't watch this for too long, or you'll be struck by lightning. Field's scalp was numb, and he almost vomited. What are these rotten corpses doing? So disgusting. Roar! The appearance of the living disturbed the corrupted creatures. In the hall and the corridor in the distance, a large number of bloodthirsty eyes immediately lit up. Puff! The corrupted elves rushed out like a swarm of corrupted worms, mixed with corpses, and rushed towards everyone. Disgusting guy, how dare you pollute my eyes? Rosaria was furious, and the gluttony great sword slashed out suddenly, strangling with mixed sword energy and cold chains at the same time. Whether it was an ordinary corpse or a high-level corpse, all turned into powder. If it weren't for the need for this building, Rosaria would probably cut it in half with one sword. After the sword shadow, all the corrupted creatures on the 2nd floor were killed in seconds, turned into bloodlines, and were absorbed by the gluttony great sword, leaving no residue that polluted the environment. As expected of you, you clean up quickly. Field gave a thumbs up. Of course. Rosaria casually raised her long hair. Dong dong. A subtle collision sound came, and Ashina's ear shook slightly. My lord, there may be survivors here. It seemed that the huge movement just now woke up the survivors. Is there anyone outside? Save us, sister? Is it Fenrir and Lady Aliana? Thank the goddess of nature. From deep inside the 2nd floor, a pleasant and gentle elven language came. Although everyone could not understand it, they could hear the surprise in the tone. Following the sound, Field found a hidden compartment. Through the crack in the door, he could see several elves inside. There was a fog lamp in the compartment, so they were saved. However, when the elves saw Field, the sweet smiles on their faces froze instantly. It's not our compatriots, it's the lowly human. The leading lady elf was shocked and shot an arrow. Fortunately, Field was prepared and dodged. Chapter 770. Fuck so wild. Field retreated as if he had seen a wasp. You actually tried to hurt my lord. The arrow was held in Ashina's hand, and she broke it. Her scarlet eyes flashed with a dangerous light, and she raised her hand and punched a big hole in the dark partition. Ah! The elves in the house screamed in fear, and they were really scared. You know, this dark partition wooden door was built with everyone's magic, so it can resist the invasion of corrupted creatures. Such a powerful gate was actually punched into a hole by the enemy. In the eyes of the elves, Ashina is a perverted butcher in a horror movie. After 3 punches and 2 kicks, Ashina blasted the elves' defense line open. She did not take any further action, but slowly retreated behind Field. Calm down, elf ladies. Field stepped forward to comfort them, but the response was still cold arrows. The elves could not communicate at all and kept attacking Field. You deserve to be slaughtered. Field ran out of patience and spat unhappily. Rosaria, give them a good beating and let them know their situation. Leave it to me. Rosalia threw out the chain of the gluttony sword, controlled all the elves, and whipped wildly. The elves were beaten so hard that they screamed, and their figures were plump. After being exhausted, they lay on the ground honestly, humming miserably. This is just like that. Feld was satisfied, nodding. Then I have time to carefully look at the elves. The appearance is nothing to say, they are like beautiful Nordic girls, With a thin waist, white skin, smooth and plump skin, and with tearful eyes, it is pity. However, the elf's clothing is extremely bold. Either two vertical thin strips of cloth make up the shape of a bold evening dress, or a horizontal rope, or even more boldly, a leaf-shaped lid. Their panties are very close to modern ones, bold and hot. The only clothes that are made of more materials are capes. Why are you wearing it like this? I can smell the disgusting female smell from a distance. Ashina kicked the elf's rabbit with her foot in contempt, touching the wound, and the elf grimaced in pain, casting an angry and disgusted look. Rosaria crossed her arms over her chest. No wonder the war against the elves is always difficult to win. I'm afraid no soldier would really want to kill such a hot beauty. That makes sense, but the elves will show no mercy to humans and almost never leave anyone alive. Field smiled and said, the elves dress like this to get close to the natural elements. Even the forest elves, sea elves, etc., are naked. The last time he went back to the family, Field read a lot of elf books. As a magical race, elves are extremely unique. They do not view themselves only at the level of race, but as the essence of nature. They can establish connections with any animal in the forest without any barriers. Of course, the arrogant elves have already expelled humans from the nature. If you are a powerful monster and find an elf as your wife, they will gladly accept you. But if you are a human and go to find an elf, you will be ambushed and shot by them. It is worth mentioning that elves, both male and female, have long hair. At most, they wear their hair in a bun, as they regard long hair as an honor. If you find an elf with short hair, run, that is a succubus. Another reason is their age. Although they are young, they have lived for 200 or 300 years. Having lived for 200 or 300 years, they have seen everything. How can they be so pure and innocent? Field shook his head repeatedly. His own pure little angel, who is only in her 20s, wants to comb herself all day after tasting the saltiness and blandness. They have lived for 300 or 400 years, and they are already mature. It is normal for them to wear bold clothes. After cleaning up the corpses on the 3rd floor, let the soldiers move in. The ranger barrier is ours, and this will become our springboard. It was no difficulty for Rosaria and the others to clean up the corpses. Soon, this slightly crude barrier fell into Field's hands. Using the ranger barrier as the back wall of the camp, Yimu led everyone to dig trenches, build chevaux de frise, and build simple stone walls and watchtowers based on it, and they were very busy. In the evening, the main force of the elves followed the traces of their companions and headed towards the elf barrier. And the Pathfinder, God's chosen Undine, jumped onto the treetops, her cute little feet tightly grasping the branches. Even if her petite body was pressed on the edge of the treetops, it would not cause the branches to tremble. When she saw the knight leading the army, Undine was first confused, and then shocked. Humans? How could there be traces of humans here, and even subhumans? This is too strange. The elf girl's face was uncertain. Humans are a waste race. Insects that betray nature, and it is impossible for them to have the ability to go deep into the disaster area. Using her divine power, Undine made her vision more penetrating. Through the thick gray fog, humans are building a stone wall. Only humans like those cold stones, Undine thought. Soldiers carried long cylindrical objects onto the wall, and no one knew what they were. Wait, demons? Undine's heart skipped a beat, and she wiped her eyes. She was sure she was not mistaken. This army was actually composed of 3 races: demons, subhumans, and humans. No one killed anyone, and everyone was busy. What's going on? While searching, Undine saw her compatriots. The pitiful and beautiful elves were locked in iron cages by the hateful human soldiers. A perverted, mean, hateful noble man was torturing them. No, I must rescue my compatriots. Undine gritted her teeth in anger. It must be the damned humans who used despicable means to capture them. Hurrying back to the camp, Undine found the leader of the elf army, Fenrir, and reported what she saw. At the same time, she severely belittled the human army, describing them as a wretched existence like goblins. In her mouth, the night army became a bunch of barbarians. Hearing the news of the night army, Fenrir closed his eyes in despair. Those guys who are not as good as bedbugs must be attracted by the perfect elf body. My dear sisters, I am afraid you are suffering. Yes, but humans must be the servants of the devil. Undine cutely put her hands on her hips. Those demons are very tall and particularly cruel. No, demons are just ants in front of noble elves. Fenrir drew the sword from his waist. As a male elf, a child of the forest, I will never allow ridiculous ants to ravage my compatriots. Fellows, we should be careful. I can feel the warning from nature. Another chosen priest in green robes gently advised. Oh, I want to see what the enemy can do. Finrod looked down on them. No one can resist the wrath of the elves. Chapter 771. Elf Fortress Camp. What's wrong with these elves? They won't listen to you, and won't communicate. Field's throat was smoking from interrogation, but the elves didn't even make a gesture. I saved them, but they almost shot me with an arrow. The elves showed no apology, and they held their heads high, acting very arrogant. The elves' hot clothes made the soldiers around them unable to work, and they came over to watch from time to time, drooling. I always feel that the appearance of the elves is not accidental. After pacing back and forth for a few steps, Field muttered, "What a coincidence, both the church and the elves. Even if they are all after the body of God, they won't come at the same time. The body of God was created by the underground elves, with a history of tens of thousands of years, and everyone avoids it like a plague. How come this thing has become so popular just when I want to attack the Viscount territory, and everyone comes to find it, which is a bit like kitching? The elves may know something, but unfortunately they have no intention of cooperating. Maybe Miss Cheen can understand. She is proficient in many languages." The little angel Tisifa came over and handed over a cup of tea. Glancing at the cup, Field was sure it was not milk, so he took a sip to moisten his throat. Such a subtle action made Tisifa blush, and she bit her lip lightly. "I'm not that mean, just drink the tea I give you." Field looked funny. "Actually, I want to drink milk. I'm going to drink a lot tonight." "If you want to drink milk, go to the cowshed and tell me what to say." Tisifa's shoulders trembled slightly, and her eyes avoided pretending not to understand. "Forget it, Ashina." Hey, why are you looking for her? She doesn't have any milk." Tisifa hurriedly grabbed Field's hand. "I can come." Field almost couldn't hold it back. "I asked Ashina to go back and pick up Cheen. What are you thinking?" Realizing that he was thinking wrong, Tisifa blushed. As Ashina was about to leave, a brisk and loud flute sound came from outside the camp. "Report to the Lord. An elf army of about 500 people was found." A knight came hurriedly to report. "They challenged us." "Oh, they came to me on their own initiative, so I asked what's going on." Field clapped his hands with his fists. "Let's go and take a look." The camp wall was still in its infancy. Field stepped on the scaffolding and saw the elf army. The female elf soldiers looked like they were here to participate in an underwear fashion show, hot and pure. The male elf soldiers, each wearing a golden, slim, shining armor, only showing silver-gray pupils, were extremely cool. "With so few people, you dare to attack our camp?" Tisifa covered her mouth, very surprised. "The elves are very powerful in individual combat." "Hiss, I'm not sure either." "Try it first, blue silver." Cough cough. Field cleared his throat, afraid that others would not understand, and immediately greeted with a smile and gestures. "Hello, visitors from afar." The air was dead silent, and both sides were silent. Field scratched his head awkwardly through the helmet, thinking that the other party did not understand. "Fuck you, you stupid human bastard, you are worse than a goblin." In the enemy's army, a male elf dressed in particularly gorgeous clothes yelled, "Human, I give you 3 minutes to invite my kind out and kneel down to ask for forgiveness, and I will give you a quick death." "Fuck." Field was stunned. "Do you have any manners? These elves' curses are too ugly." The soldiers around were all furious, and they raised their weapons one by one and cursed at the elves angrily. In the soldiers' view, it's okay to scold themselves, but never scold the beloved Lord. It's a good thing to be able to communicate. Field suppressed his anger and pushed his hands. "Calm down, your compatriots were caught by the corpses, and I saved them." Puff. Unexpectedly, as soon as this was said, the elves burst into laughter. The elf lowly, Undine, covered her mouth and stomped her feet like a girl. "Humans are such lowly trash, they are not even worthy of carrying shoes for us elves. If I fall to the point of being rescued by humans, I might as well be bred by corpses." "That's right, humans are just servants of the devil. What ability do you have?" "The guys who were whipped by us elves, the Griffin Empire, are trash." The elves mocked mercilessly. "Fuck." Field couldn't stand it anymore. Rosaria and others on the side were dumbfounded. "Are elves so weird?" "That's right, if they weren't weird, they would have named themselves High Elves. The elves are so arrogant, and it has something to do with the Griffin Empire. In the battles between elves and humans, humans almost always lose. If it weren't for the protection of the sea and the mountains, the Griffin Empire would have been destroyed by the elves long ago. Therefore, the elves have a psychological advantage, and they look down on this neighbor from the bottom of their hearts." Phil Uamanai snorted coldly. "My opinion is to kill." "That's right, the weapon of criticism is not as good as the criticism of the weapon. For arrogant guys, we must rely on strength to speak." Field put away his previous good face, and pointed at the elves and cursed. You are shameless, right? A beautiful elf god's chosen walked out. Her plump figure was extremely amazing. Her leg rings and clothes could hardly hold the flesh. And she was charming to the bone at a glance. We haven't fallen to the point where we need human charity. Fenrir's wife, Ariana, cast a contemptuous look at him, and at the same time, she showed her powerful fourth-order divine power. Can you, the chosen ones of mankind, face me alone? Okay, I'm going to slap you hard in the face, arrest you all, and send you to the public toilet. Rosaria, defeat her alive. Field was afraid that the little son would kill all the enemies as soon as he made a move, and he wouldn't be able to ask anything. Leave it to me. Rosaria picked up the gluttony greatsword and jumped directly onto the ranger barrier. The moment she landed, a huge corrupted dragon rose from the ground, looking extremely cool. Wait, why is the chosen one you sent a calamity? Aliana stood maturely and intellectually, brushing her slender hand across her collarbone, and said sarcastically, it turns out the humans are only worthy of being servants. I guess there are no human chosen ones that can be shown off. That's right, how can humans have high-level chosen ones? Undine, you come. Okay, Undine will never let you down. The elf lowly jumped out, bounding over with bare, clean little feet, holding the artifact Emerald Weaver, a fast bow inlaid with gorgeous gems, which can shoot a large number of arrows in a short period of time. Let me do it. Black divine power surged around Heiyu, and he landed gracefully. However, his extraordinary temperament did not last for 2 seconds. Heiyu turned around and asked stupidly, am I considered a human? Yes, of course I am. Field snorted coldly, with his hands behind his back, revealing a mysterious aura. I only let my second-level god choose to fight, so as to avoid saying that Brother Faye bullied you primitive people. Chapter 772. Damn it, how dare you humiliate us. Seeing that Heiyu was only at the second level, Wendy was so angry that she jumped up and down. Human, you are looking for death. Under normal circumstances, elves have innate advantages, and their combat power is often stronger than humans of the same level. In the eyes of the elves, even if Field lets the fourth-level human god choose to fight, it is considered acceptable. Teach her a lesson. Field was too lazy to explain, and waved his hand domineeringly. Crow feather sword, copy? Heiyu had been holding back his anger for a long time. The long sword in his hand was split into two into 4, and instantly transformed into more than 100 identical artifacts. At the same time, a strange scarlet domain unfolded, covering the entire battlefield. Heiyu's pseudodomain can absorb the surrounding murderous intent and transform it into her own lethality. The murderous aura of the night army of 10,000 people was instantly used by Heiyu. Without using any magical skills, Heiyu relied on his powerful divine power to violently gather hundreds of crow feather swords and smash them towards Wendini. It seemed chaotic, but the speed was surprisingly fast. Chi. The explosion of the sword energy cutting through the air seemed to condense into substance, and the terrible murderous aura contained in it was as vast as the ocean. The elves didn't even react. With a loud bang, Undine was smashed away, and the sword energy swept through, crushing all the rocks and trees along the way into dust. Undine was like a broken sack, knocking down 7 or 8 trees before stopping. The broken stones flew, and the elves were so scared that their hearts skipped a beat. They dodged the broken stones, and came to their senses. Aliana's face immediately turned cold. She didn't expect that a human girl could have such lethality. Fortunately, Undine jumped up with a grin. Despicable human, you actually attacked me. After hearing this explanation, the elves nodded in understanding. After all, before Undine could say a word, Black Feather attacked first. It was purely coincidental that she was knocked away by Black Feather. Little girl, you should be ready to use your magic skills. Undine drew her bow angrily, and a series of emerald green divine power circles continued to gather on the tip of the arrow. Level 3 magic skill, seize the green. The arrow came with a buzzing sound, and the violent force alone plowed the land along the way, forming a straight gully. Heiyu raised his hand, and the crow feather swords around him hummed. This sword is the price you pay for humiliating my lord. Disaster sword prison, deploy. As Heiyu's divine skill was passively deployed, the power of the crow feather sword was completely unleashed. As a former 6th level artifact, it could continuously absorb divine power and transform it into damage. And Heiyu's divine power was as vast as the sea, and he madly injected divine power into the long sword. In an instant, the sky and the earth changed color, and a black crow-shaped afterimage hovered in the sky, like an ominous creature announcing its death. Black Feather, who was caught in it, looked like a demon from hell in the black divine power hurricane. Nature is warning me. Why? It's obviously a human. Why is nature warning me? Ariana was shocked. The explosive momentum almost shocked the elf's eyes. Second level divine skill. Black crow buries the sky. Chaos lotus blossomed, and hundreds of long swords and black feathers hands exploded with sonic booms at the same time. The vast power swept, and the crow feather sword turned into a stream of light and flew out. The ground cracked along the way, the gray fog parted, and the burial sky divine skill collided with the opponent's green divine skill. At the moment of collision, the Chui duo divine skill was unable to cause even the slightest hindrance, and it was directly shattered. The airwaves swept, and the terrifying shock wave flew everywhere. Bang! The momentum of the raven feather sword did not decrease at all, and it arrived in an instant. Undine's divine shield also did not last for half a second, and was directly shattered. As if hit by a moving mountain, Undine vomited blood and flew out instantly. After plowing the land for 100 meters, it fell into the ground headfirst, and it was unknown whether it was dead or alive. Raven feather sword, collect. Heiyu grabbed with one hand, and hundreds of long swords stopped at the same time, without moving forward or exploding. Under normal circumstances, the burial heaven divine skill would explode violently after hitting. But thinking that the Lord's public toilet needed living elves, Heiyu decisively curbed his desire to kill. The long swords exploded, and they were all retracted and stabbed into the ground around Heiyu. Goddess. The elves' eyes popped out at this scene, and they suddenly had the concept of sword immortal in their minds, even though they had never seen it before. It is easy to blast out a divine skill, but it is difficult to retract it. The human girl on the opposite side not only defeated the cross-level enemy in an instant, but also retracted the divine skill. It was too outrageous. Such an outrageous scene made Fenrir feel like he was dreaming, and it felt unreal. My lord, I didn't disappoint you. Heiyu turned around, lifted her skirt elegantly and bowed. You did a good job, but there is still room for improvement, don't be complacent. Field stood with his hands on his waist, trying hard to hold back his smile, and showed off his master style lightly. You elves are too rubbish, you dare to speak so arrogantly with your strength. Have you been fighting with us humans for a long time at the border, and you don't understand what human dignity is? Heiyu nodded in agreement. That's right, my lord is speaking to you kindly, but you still dare to speak nonsense. From now on, the elves can only lie on the ground and listen to the adults talking with their heads held high. Aliana's face changed drastically, and she felt that her self-esteem was hit. Is the war between the Griffin Empire and them just a minor fight? Aliana's face turned red and white, and she felt very uncomfortable. What's worse is that such a powerful little girl is actually respectful to the man in front of her, and she doesn't seem to have a high status. Humph, you must have used a skill that consumes life. You humans love to use shameful means the most. The male elf Fenrir questioned with gritted teeth. Are you talking about the divine skill just now? Heiyu scratched his head in confusion. Like this? Hooking his fingers, the surrounding crow feather swords were activated again. Black crow buries the sky. The long sword flew in the air, and the sword energy swept across wantonly, constantly bombarding the gray fog, exploding everywhere. Heiyu splashed divine power wantonly. As the inheritor of the power of the god of destruction, she had too much divine power to use up. The elves' faces were illuminated by the explosion, turning black and gray. The most explosive thing was their mentality, which was completely broken. Field was swelled, thinking, I told you to be arrogant, but now you are slapped in the face. Huh? Something is wrong? There is a high-level god's chosen peeping in the gray fog. Blackfeather, who was bombarded all around, frowned slightly. She felt that her attack hit the divine shield. Everyone be alert, beware of the corrupted god's chosen. Field was the first to react, and he roared with his fighting spirit. Almost instantly, the earth trembled, the entire piece of land was blown away, and a huge worm as big as a building rose from the ground. Both the elves and the army of Night Lord fell into a brief chaos. Hee, Baron Field, your performance really did not disappoint me. After a sickly and crazy laugh, a figure rushed out of the gray fog, crashed straight into the elf team, violently knocked out the elf's chosen priest, and rushed towards Heiyu.